Our showcase tonight comes from
Welcome! We are here to present a musical salute to the 20th century. We'll travel through the musical time of each decade, featuring popular songs that will entertain you and paint a picture of what life in America was like at that time. Join us as we sing and celebrate the 20th century. We'll begin our musical adventure with the 1900s. Ragtime was the new syncopated jazz, baseball was the American pastime, and a stroll through the park was the thing to do after school.
That you want to go to war. That's just the bestest band one have. Running along, long, long, long. Let me take you by the hand to the man who's the leader of the band. And if you care to hear the Swanee River play in ragtime, come on in here.
Now we'll have the invocation by Reverend Jeff Styron, Executive Pastor at High Point Community Church, and who will also lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Members of the Clay County School Board, on behalf of Pastor Mike Haley and the members of High Point Community Church of Orange Park, I want to thank you for your gracious invitation to allow me to offer a prayer over your meeting tonight. Let us pray. Father, we ask your blessings over these board members and over this very important meeting. We ask that your wisdom will guide their discussion and that all of their decisions will bring honor and glory to your name. We ask that you guide their thoughts in such a way that all the decisions will improve the quality of education in every school throughout Clay County. We pray for your continued blessing over all the men and women who serve our students daily, our teachers, our administrators, and our support staff, without whom our schools would be unable to function. We pray for our students that as they study and learn, they will continue to grow into mature, well-educated young men and women who will be capable of leading this next generation into successful jobs and careers that will benefit not only Clay County, but our state, our nation, and our world. Father, we thank you for all our many blessings and ask that you guide our local, state, and national leaders through these difficult days. Help them to seek your guidance and direction every day, for we know that you alone are the source of all wisdom. We pray in your most holy and precious name. Amen. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, if you'll remain standing, we're going to have an extra treat tonight, the national anthem by the Orange Park Junior High Chorus.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Thank you. And I noticed all the administrators from Orange Park Junior are here. You're going to be on deck in just a few minutes. Okay, you're dismissed. Y'all can leave now. Or y'all can stay for a long, exciting board meeting. They may have homework, Mr. Davis.
Homework, that's right.
Yeah, that's lots of homework.
Study.
The October 3rd, 2019 Clay County School Board meeting will come to order. I'd like to welcome all of you, citizens of Clay County, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend tonight's school board meeting. This meeting is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children here in Clay County. If you wish to address the board, there will be an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Please fill out a card, which you will find located in the back of the room, indicating the specific item number or topic you wish to speak about, and turn it in promptly. You may turn in the cards to Chief Wagner or any of the officers you see. No additional cards will be accepted once the board moves to the public comment section under presentations from the audience. Your participation is welcomed and appreciated. Let me note that the artwork tonight is provided by our students at Orange Park Junior High. This is Orange Park Junior High night, I think. And Abby Shipe is the art teacher at the school, but please notice the drawings around the room. There are no recognitions and awards tonight. Presenters, Verdia Steele grant check presentation to Project Lead the Way for Orange Park High School, Alice Park.
Good evening. Tonight we are pleased to have Mr. Sam Hopper, who is with Veritas Steel, as the plant controller. Veritas Steel has committed $10,000 to Orange Park High School Project Lead the Way program over the next 3 years. This is in addition to a previous three-year commitment for a total of 6 years that they have invested in Orange Park High School. Veritas Steel is located in Palatka, Florida, and is a leader in the bridge fabrication industry. They host our students on a number of field trips, sit on our advisory boards, and serve as guest speakers in our classrooms. Not only have they made a financial commitment to our programs, but have also invested in our students by field trips to their plant to see the work in progress. Our students actually have a field trip to the plant on October 11th as part of celebrating Manufacturing Month, which happens in October. At Orange Park High School, the Project Lead the Way program focuses on an engineering pathway. Project Lead the Way Engineering empowers students to step into the role of an engineer, adopt problem-solving mindsets, and make the leap from dreamers to doers. The program's courses engage students in compelling, real-world challenges that help them become better collaborators and better thinkers. Students take from the courses in-depth knowledge and skills they will use in high school and for the rest of their lives in any career pathway they might choose. We also have Project Lead the Way programs at Orange Park Junior High School and Lakeside Junior High School so that students have a streamless transition for those going from 7th through 12th grade that have an interest in engineering or pre-engineering. I'd like to invite a couple people up for the check presentation. Tonight we have Mr. Sam Hopper from Veritas Steel, who is here. We have from Orange Park High School, Mr. Anthony Bradley, who is their assistant principal. We have Donna Warner, who is our college and career coach there at Orange Park High School, who really helped us make this initial contact. So we're thankful for Donna. We have Mr. Chris Endress, who is one of our Project Lead the Way teachers there, and Miss Mary Ellen DeMarco, who is also a teacher. So we're going to do our check presentation. So if you want to come on up. Mr. Superintendent and Ms. Studdard, or I guess if everybody would like to come be a part of the picture.
Go? Ladies, you want to go? Hop.
Again, a thank you to Veritas Steel.
We like receiving money. Okay. Our next presenter, Pragmatic Works Check Presentation and Clay Education Foundation Update, Michaela Buchanan. More money.
All right, so I've already invited Brian. He's the founder and CEO of Pragmatic Works up here with me because without him, this new program would not be possible. So I want to thank y'all all first for just allowing us to come here before you tonight with this check presentation, and we'll do that before, if that's okay, before the presentation. So
Right.
a little bit about this program. It's called Let's Read Clay. We modeled it after Let's Read Florida, if those are familiar. We met with all the principals when I took this job about 8 months ago to the day, and they said one of the big things, especially in the primary grades, was that classroom libraries are a huge, huge thing. Teachers are constantly spending money on this. They need more books in the hands of their students. Particularly in our Title I schools. So I went to Brian with this really lofty idea, and I said, "Hey, what do you think?" And he graciously was like, "Okay, well, maybe this girl has an idea here," and he really wanted to give to Clay Hill Elementary. So he was our first donor to this program, and we actually now have a total of $20,000 going towards it this year for Clay Hill, Wilkinson Elementary, and Charles E. Bennett. The books have been ordered, but he was our first donor, and we wanted to thank him very much tonight. So.
Absolutely. Come on, ladies. More money. Okay.
Okay.
Michaela?
Yes. Okay, so as I mentioned, about 8 months ago, I took on the role of executive director here at the Clay Education Foundation. We are the Clay County School District's direct support organization. So what that means is we are a local 501c3 nonprofit, and all of our funds go to support teachers and students in Clay County Public Schools. So it's actually a really great honor tonight to be able to let you all know that for this year so far, for 2019-2020, we have had a total influx, I guess, of donations and sponsorships of $157,000 for this fiscal year, which started, thank you. So we have until June to close that out, so hopefully we'll be back to report some more money, but fingers crossed. So last year, with the grants, you're going to have to bear with me, I'm not that intelligent. The Grants for Great Ideas program, this is one of our staple programs. We have 2 staple programs that the foundation has consistently helped support here at the district. This is a classroom grant program. Last year we gave about 104 classroom grants out, which totaled in a little over $54,000. That touched 41 of 42 of our public schools. We served a little over 25,000 students total. So here you'll see some of the pictures of some of our great kids building, reading, doing some We Do robots there in the bottom right, and just the student lives that are impacted on this every single day. From the media centers to training them and getting them robots in the hands of every kid, to the books. So you see those numbers, 15,000, 3,000. This year, we just closed our grant application. We had a little over 250 total applicants. The second program, in terms of schools specifically for students that we've been doing for a while here, are the micro farms. So we've done these at a few different schools. This year we're doing them at Wilkinson Junior High and Keystone Elementary School in Clay Hill. And that encompassed last year 550 students. Hopefully we'll see an increase of students this year. This is both a during and after school program. We do provide teachers support in this, so all the money that they get, it's similar to Teacher League money where they give it back to the farms. Our goal is to work with the community partnership schools at Keystone and Wilkinson Junior to grow the food and give them to the families in need through the Farm Share Food Days. This year, we're also happy to do the MOSH partnership for the second year. So that's the Museum of Science and History, where 950 students last year got the opportunity to get hands-on STEM experiences that they may otherwise not have had, going to MOSH. This year, MOSH is actually coming to every sixth grade classroom, and they're doing Red Rover Robotics. This is a program that was created with St. John's Science Curriculum Specialist, UNF, and the MOSH curriculum guides as well, specifically hitting some standards, but all our sixth grade students will have that in class. And then we're working with secondary to get every eighth grader to MOSH this year to do the planetarium experience. New that we just did for the second time in August is Tools for Clay Schools. This is our supply giveaway program. In the last 2 years, we've touched over 1,000 teachers and given over a little bit over $40,000 in school supplies. That's the dollar amount. I can't tell you honestly how much that's total valued because we were getting things like boxes of crayons for 33 cents from our partners. So much more, right? And we plan to do that again on January 6th at the TTC here. The second biggest program that we're probably most well known for helping support is, of course, our Teacher and School-Related Employee of the Year event that's hosted normally every January. So this will be the third year we're supporting that event, and we look forward to that. On top of that, we're excited this year to launch a year-long professional development experience for all of those teacher nominees. It's Clay Teachers Lead, started by 2 former Teachers of the Year right here in Clay County who happen to sit on our board. And they were very passionate about teachers having this opportunity. So on September 18th, Mr. Davis and a few of his key district staff came and they listened to the teachers, what they thought, heard them out, and we got to talk about some big issues in education, had Impact Florida come. We plan on doing that again in February, and we're hosting a district roundtable again, but also this time inviting Jacksonville's Public Education Fund in St. Johns County. Their teacher nominees will be here as well, and we're going to have the opportunity to host them. So it's going to be very special. The Florida Teacher of the Year will be here as well as some others. So we're very excited to bring that. And the last thing, I won't bore you for too much longer here, just wanted to provide a nice little update about what we're doing. But the grant writing workshop, so like I said, we give away grants. And teachers, there's tons of money out there. Sometimes they don't have the time. Sometimes they don't know how to write the grants. So this was something we heard from many of our principals. So we've hosted 4 grant writing workshops since February of 2019 and touched a little over 115 educators so far. We have a few more scheduled for this year, and we'll be doing a 102 at Wilkinson Junior High in about a month and a half. So I think that's it, and other than the Let's Read Clay, which I already gave you a little update on. But thank you so much. We're excited to be your education foundation, and we're here to partner with you on all of these events and programs. So please just let us know how we can help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're doing a marvelous job with the Education Foundation. Thank you. All right. Next is the cost savings report from Synergistic Incorporated. Butch Collier and/or Roseanne Jolly with Synergistic. But
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, superintendent. I'm here to present Synergist, which is our partners in energy cost avoidance. Energy
Right.
cost avoidance is covering a number of products, mainly electricity and also water and sewage.
okay.
These are all fall under the maintenance department. So I'd like to invite Butch Collier to come up, and he will discuss. He has about 8 slides to show you cost avoidance we have had year to date. Now, cost avoidance in energy in the public schools is a tough nut to crack. So we have a third party helping us out with that program, and they have done a fantastic job to date. So my introduction is Butch Collier.
Thank you, Phil. First of all, I don't have a check for you, but I do got some good news as far as
No check?
No check. Sorry
Oh,
about that.
okay.
But I can share some information about how much money we have saved here with the School District of Clay County. So that's a few slides that I just want to go over. First, what you're going to hear from us is the cost savings overview. So we entered into this partnership 3 years ago. It's a 5-year contract, and so we've just completed year 3. So every single year, we want to share the results with you. So that's why we're here today to go over that stuff. So far, this shows the cumulative cost avoidance. So we have the first number that says the expected energy cost and the actual energy cost. So for the last 3 years that we've had the partnership, the actual energy cost is right around $22 million. That's utility cost. The expected energy cost during that time without us here and without the program based on the previous years would have been $25.56 million, which means the program savings of $3.5 million for 3 years, which is a 14% decrease. So that's pretty substantial for the school system, and we hope that that money can be allocated for other educational usage. This gives you the breakdown by year. So the very first year, which was July 16 through June of 17, the savings was $903,000. Year 2 was $1.2 million, and now it's up to 1.3, almost 1.4 million. So we are showing progress as we go along. We think that's a number of reasons for that. One is the work with the maintenance staff that we have here, along with creating the energy culture and the buy-in of the students and the staff. Basically, what do our energy specialists do? What do we provide to school districts that most school districts cannot provide for themselves? Well, we provide 2 energy specialists, Mark and Roseanne Jolly, that handle comfort complaints and handle HVAC scheduling. They try to make sure that those buildings are being optimized at all times of the day. So they conduct a lot of building audits at all hours of the day, all hours of the night, when nobody's in the building, to make sure that the building is being optimized as far as energy is concerned. They also want to ensure that ensure district-approved energy guidelines are being followed. They have, our company's established a lot of technology here in the last year. It's a GreenX technology that basically gives the energy specialist alerts on any meter or any bill that's not performing very well, so that they can immediately investigate the reasons why, and then make sure energy conservation measures are followed during school holidays. So key accomplishments, they've identified a number of mechanical, plumbing, and control issues that have been fixed, establishing a culture of energy conservation, micromanaging special event schedules. We've also installed 163 Wi-Fi thermostats in place of manual stats at 4 different schools. They've conducted over 6,835 energy audits. This is how many times they've been in the buildings, seeing what's going on. And then here recently, the school district of Clay County has 28 schools that have just achieved Energy Star certification. So a lot of people want to know what Energy Star certification is. Basically, it's nothing that we control, the company. It's basically the Department of Energy. The Energy Star logo, as you know, it's on appliances, all kinds of equipment. It's definitely a recognized logo. And so what they do is they look at the energy usage of all the schools, and they compare that to the school usage nationwide. And so basically, in order to get the Energy Star certification, you must be in the top 25% of schools. Likewise, like elementary school compared to elementary school, you're in the top 25% nationwide as far as energy usage in the nation as far as schools. So you had 28 schools basically that achieved that Energy Star certification, which means you got 28 schools that are in the top 25% nationwide as far as reducing energy, which is quite an accomplishment. Those schools, we consider these the best of the best. So I could go through the whole list, but I think you can read those. But those are the 28 schools that we have that are achieved the Energy Star certification. So we think this is a great accomplishment. What they will do is they will be receiving a certificate. They also have a little sticker that has the Energy Star logo that can be posted in the schools to let people know and let the community know that this is an Energy Star certified school. So it's something we're very proud of and working with the district on to get this achieved for them. Okay? Any questions? No check for you, but hopefully it's some good news.
I have a question. Where would we find the district-approved energy guidelines? I don't know if that's come to us, if we've seen it. You said district-approved. Does that mean the board approved it? I'm looking at Dr. Kemp because I don't know who would be answering me on this one.
Yes, through the chair, we have protocols. There was administrative procedures put in place even prior to 2017 regarding this contract and as far as set points that we use in the buildings and facilities. So whether it came to the board or not, I'd have to defer and find out. That was prior to my time.
Okay, and I'm concerned because, I mean, we're hearing these great savings and it all sounds wonderful, but we all know the air conditioning problems we've had with turning the AC off too early, and are we saving just because we're not using the electricity to run the air conditioning?
No,
That's a
ma'am,
big
that's
part of it?
not the primary goal. The primary goal is to create the savings when students are not in the buildings and staff is not in the building. And we always want that to be a comfortable environment as soon as they walk in. So that is the primary goal. The primary savings, it's very difficult to save when students are in the building, is trying to create that savings when students are outside the
Well,
building.
and that seems to be the issue, at least this year, you know, with all the problems that we had with our AC units. And, you know, the thought is on some of us, I don't know how staff feels about it, but by turning the AC units off at night or turning them up very high and then having to shut them back on to get the schools cool enough for when people come in is too much stress on these huge units.
So our goal is to always have it, no matter what. It doesn't matter if at what point, if we need to run the building all night to make sure that it's at that set point, then that's what we'll do. So that
But
is what
that's
we're,
not what we were doing.
that's what we're trying to do, yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, thank you for answering my questions. I
Okay,
appreciate it.
thank you.
I know one thing, we don't like to have meetings past 9 o'clock because if it's hot outside, we burn up. At 9, isn't it 9 o'clock? Everything goes kaflooey in here. We either freeze or burn up, depending on the weather, because they're tough on us.
Okay,
They make us get through with our meetings by 9 o'clock, right?
okay.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you for the work you do. Hope you can save us even more next year.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. And thank you, Mr. Hines. Next is Florida Safe School Assessment Findings. Mr. John Ward.
Good evening, everybody. John Ward, Director, Operations, Safety, and Security. First, I'd like to take this opportunity, have not had a chance to take this opportunity to thank the board, superintendent, staff, and the citizens here for the opportunity to serve as I transitioned over into this position. On a serious note, what we did do is the Office of Safe Schools and Florida legislation required us to do what's called a Florida Safe Schools Assessment. It's this 158-page document that was provided to us by the Florida Department of Education. For my administrators in the room, I greatly appreciate it. They provided a lot of valuable information for it. This document, what this was, is this was to really investigate deep into security enhancements, what are some gaps, what are some analysis that we need to do to our schools to help improve the safety and security of that. With all these being completed, we finally submitted those in the middle of September, and now we gave, as we spoke at your agenda meeting last week, we gave the detailed assessment at your agenda meeting in Shade last week, and then we've got to give this basic presentation in public to kind of meet the guidance of it. So I'd like to thank school administrators, custodial staff, school police department, Clay County Public Safety, Clay County Sheriff's Office, Orange Park Fire Department, Orange Park Police Department, Green Cove Springs Police Department, and then the operations team here at the district that provided lots of valuable information into this document. Again, we won't go into detailed assessments due to safety and security, but one thing I do want to address is some of the high-level findings that we did find, and many of these projects which are currently being addressed at this time. Some of the issues that we did see is what I'll start with is I'll call the exterior perimeter or the exterior envelope, which is the fencing. A lot of our fencing is older. Some of our campuses do not have fencing, so we're in the process of addressing that, and that was one of the things that was cited in the assessment. Another one of the things is called the interior envelope. You've got your exterior envelope, and then you've got your interior envelope that's kind of protecting the structures, that type thing, as they come in through the parking lot. We have some of our campuses that do not have that, and again, some of that is currently being addressed. And then, as we've all talked about, and as Dr. Kemp has addressed many times, the age of a lot of our campuses, 44 years plus of our age, is really trying to push towards that single point of entry into our campuses. I know with being 44-plus years old, I say when I went to school, we didn't have the security concerns that we had to deal with now. Schools were built for openness and welcoming, and unfortunately, in these unfortunate times that we're at now, it's really trying to build that single point of entry, forcing all our visitors and volunteers through that front entryway so we can validate them and that type thing. So, and then the other thing is the enhanced camera systems. As our money continually increases that, we're working through. But one thing I want to put forward is that our security enhancements that we're dealing with, as I've spoke to you all many times, are not a one and done. And making that clear to all our constituents is that the security enhancements are not one and done. Cameras, fence, all that thing is constantly got to be repetitively updated and continually worked on that. So, and we also need to keep in mind that the constant enhancements and replacements as we go through the years and as new technology comes up to stay ahead, that's what we're going to be looking at. So not to take too much of the time, if there's no further questions, this concludes the presentation. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Are we going to have lights?
Through the chair, I have staff looking to figure out what's going on with the lights.
Okay. I just noticed that a lot of our audience is sitting in the dark
Sorry.
there. And I said, you know, can we get them some light too? So we're
Energy.
hey, we're trying to save money.
Thanks, Synergistics.
We're trying
Thank
to
you.
save money.
On time, on demand savings. We appreciate your efforts.
Okay. But if anyone knows where the light switches are, please.
I don't want to save too
Okay.
much money. Renee Lee Pive will be after me.
Okay.
And Miss Dixon.
Tonight has been the Orange Park Junior High night to show off a little bit. We've had their artwork, their music, and now we're going to have Justin Faulkner with the school showcase. He is the principal at Orange Park Junior. And I notice in the audience, we have Janice Tucker, the vice principal, and Andrew Granith, the assistant principal. So, and lots of teachers. Hey, this is your night to shine, Mr. Faulkner.
Well, I appreciate that. Hopefully I shine brightly. We also have quite a few of our staff here, which we're really excited to have them on board with us. I want to say I'm really proud of our kids, all 10 of them that sang. We've watched them grow the last 2 years, and they're doing some amazing stuff. So thank you for the opportunity for coming here tonight to showcase what our school is doing great. Over the last year and 1 quarter as a principal, which feels like 10, and you can see the gray hair coming in rapidly, right? We've done some really amazing things building on a legacy that's already been built there. And so I wanted to share a few of those things with you quite quickly, and then we'll move on. So to start with some data to begin with, we are on the rise academically, which is really exciting. We saw some growth in our math this year, which math is one of those areas that is pretty difficult and challenging to grow. So you'll see our biggest gain was in our lower 33rd, and the biggest surprise and really accomplishment is that was mostly students with disabilities. And so we saw a huge soaring of those kids. We also saw a huge soar of our ELL students with literacy. So those are areas that we're going to still target those high need. And of course, middle school acceleration, we steal points from the high schools. So we're really proud to keep taking from them, and we'll keep going. So one of the ways that we're going to keep increasing our achievement in the classroom is through our partnership with the University of North Florida. We are what's called a professional development school, or PDS school, part of the national network. And what that's designed to do is create on-site sandbox experiences for future educators so they learn hands-on material and how to actually teach in a classroom. Long gone are the days where they're stuck in a university classroom learning theory. Here they actually get to put that pedagogy into practice. And so we're really excited to see these young individuals. We've met them as probably college sophomores, and now they're going to graduate in December. And so our goal and aim is to prepare them to come back into one clay schools. So we want to keep them away from the previous life of some of our folks here. And but what's great about this partnership is that we actually bring on board some collaboration and coaching from university professors that actually push into our classrooms as well. So it's a really, really tight network. I'm really excited to see that grow. Speaking of partnerships, Orange Park Junior High School is kind of unique in that it's in the town of Orange Park. And so there's different relationships that exist within Orange Park. And one of those is the Rotary Club of Orange Park. They're probably our biggest supporters. You'll see them on our campus several times a year with their luncheons, as some of you have experienced. And they'll also volunteer for a history fair, science fair, spelling bee, and those things. So we're really excited to continue that and have that grow. Also, we've reached out with the town of Orange Park, the municipality, looking to find resources to help improve Grove Park and Orange Park Junior. So Mayor Connie Thomas has really been a huge advocate for our students and our teachers. And then lastly, faith-based partners have really done a great job with providing school supplies, backpacks, food, clothing, anything that any of our students need. They just show up with it. We don't ask for it. They just walk in and give it to us. So we're really excited to keep that going this year. Other partnerships such as Alpha Kappa Alpha and DKG and CCEA are huge supporters of sending our kids on learning experiences. We are a very diverse school, as Ms. Tucker would call it, a real-world school. They provide these experiences for our kids to learn more and more about what it means to exist in a diverse economy and a diverse world. So we took kids to historic Eatonville, which is the first Black incorporated town in the U.S., where they learned a lot about our cultural history. We took some art students to the Augusta Savage exhibit, which she was a local sculpture back in the Harlem Renaissance, and of course, some of our academy kids participated in Moonlight on Magnolia. If you haven't caught that, you should definitely check that out this year and this fall. Our kids love to compete, and they love to win. And I'm telling you, I look at some of these faces on these slides, and I still smile because they're goofy junior high kids, but they're awesome. So from state Spanish competitions to robotics that is incredible in our school, to our spelling bee finalists, to 8th in the state and math team, 1st in the district in our academic team, Florida State history fair winners. Our kids are doing amazing things across our campus. And this is just a quick snapshot of what we're doing. So our kids are healthy, happy, and they're doing great things, and they're going to really represent Clifford County well in the years to come. And so we provide all kinds of experiences for our students to explore those areas at which they can excel. And sometimes they don't want to play clarinet. That's all right. So they'll pick up a robot or vice versa. And so we give them opportunity to actually flex that kind of desire and learn those things. And my hat's off to our teachers and electives, because these kids come to them oftentimes with no experience with a clarinet or any other of these things, and they find ways to tap into that talent, as you saw tonight, or you heard tonight, grow them quite quickly. So moving forward, so we've got some great things in place, but we want to continue to soar to the A school that we are, that we will be on paper soon. And part of that is really pushing instruction on our campus, and that starts with high expectations, and that begins with me and my leadership team, that we expect more out of ourselves as leaders, and what are we doing to grow our people, and for our teachers to raise expectations for themselves, each other, and our students. And that really comes through strong instruction that is rooted in effective, intentional lesson planning that has student outcomes in mind at the base of that. And with those outcomes, it has to come through deep engagement, where kids aren't just holding a piece of paper or just compliant, they're actually engaged in the work and demonstrating what they can know and do. And of course, that's a grade appropriate text, which we provided, but also grade appropriate tasks that really show what our kids can do at grade level as expected with the standards. Through that, we are now embarking on kind of some new PLC work with our district's content support teams, which, by the way, has never been better. They are amazing. Hats off to Rebecca Billiot, Akamoto, Ms. Walsh, and Ms. Watt and their teams. They have really pushed in and supported Orange Park Junior, and it continues to grow. So we're really excited to continue that. We are pushing in with literacy instruction outside of just ELA and reading, but we're seeing that now in history, science, and other content areas. And we're seeing teachers bridge across content areas among teachers to teach each other how to teach literacy instruction, which is really powerful, and we're excited to see that show up on next year's accountability report. And all of this also could not happen without the mental support that we know is vital right now in our students. And so we have a lot of push-in support from Clay Behavioral on site full-time with Ms. Lori Yarbrough, who's amazing. We consider her a wildcat. And Youth Crisis Center, and of course our new relationship with Right Path Behavioral Services. But I will tell you, nothing is better than our in-house guidance counselors, our school counselors, Mary Kivett and Caitlin Goodman. They do phenomenal work. I just stay out of their way. And they really do a lot of great things. And then, of course, Suzanne Hall, who's our social worker, who I will tell you, if there's anyone who is an impact maker and a change agent, it's Suzanne Hall, and she has really impacted the greater Orange Park area. And if I'm allowed to block her retirement in winter, let me know, because I want to keep her around. She's really changed some lives, and we're happy to be with her at our school. And then lastly, we want to also not just triage mental wellness, we also want to educate students. So we are a full implementation school for 7 mindsets. So each day, 20 minutes, our kids and teachers are experiencing conversations around goals and fears and all the things that encompass mental wellness in both adults and kids. And so that's taking off. It's doing extremely well on our campus. And in our math classrooms, we are trying out a program called United, which gives resiliency among groups of students as they collectively solve problems, which is SEL embedded into math instruction, which math is not always exciting for kids. So this actually gives them a way to have conversation around difficulties and grapple with that learning zone of proximity. We aren't just changing things on the inside, we're changing things on the outside. Hats off to Dr. Kemp and his team. They have done phenomenal work getting our projects off the ground. I ask and ask for more until I'm told no, and I will still ask for more.
No.
Say it again.
No. Yes.
No.
Yes. All right. So one of the things we've done this year is just up-branded our logo. We didn't change it, but just made it a little more modern so we can be proud of what we're doing. Leonard's provided that to us at no cost as far as the wrapping. And then we have these benches provided by Dr. Kemp and his team, Bryce Ellis, who's also amazing, and our 7 Mindsets, Pause of Pause stones that kids are vastly in love with these benches and see those every day. And then lastly, we're pushing out in social media. We know social media is a part of who we are as a culture, so we can no longer hide from it. So I know that if I don't tell our story, someone else will. And so we push out and strategically engage our stakeholders across all 3 platforms. So we know that our kids are on Instagram, so we post on Instagram. We start seeing them like our posts and sharing our posts. We also will then share out to Facebook, it's where our parents reside, and our colleagues are on Twitter. So we're finding ways to connect across spectrums of stakeholders so that everyone's engaged. And hashtag the Wildcat Way is doing that work, and then hashtag Daymaker. Instead of asking our kids, how was your day? It's who made your day, and so it's about people and not just, it was okay. It was what kids say, right? Junior high kids. And then lastly, we can't do this work without the adults in our building. Our teachers and support staff are what make OPJ great. And so they are the Wildcat Way. I just get to not screw it up. So we're really thankful for all of the people that put their hands in the instruction of not just teaching and learning, but mental wellness of our kids. And I'm really happy to continue this year on and seeing the great things that will happen out of Orange Park Junior High School.
Very
So
good.
Thank you.
Thank you
All right.
so much.
Mr. Faulkner, if I can say something. Mr. Faulkner, before you leave, Ms. Tucker, Mr. Grana, thank you all for what you do every single day. This work isn't easy, and we always say that. And you and your team have made this school a truly special place. And I always use a measure: will I allow my child to go to that school? And even though she's in her neighborhood school, I would have no problems putting her in that school under this leadership team and the teachers in the school. So thank you for what you do. I wish when I was a principal, I had someone like Ms. Tucker, the professionalism, the experience, the hard work, and welcome to you, Mr. Grant. You're going to learn a lot from this team. But this team is doing a remarkable job, and my hat's off to each of you. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Let me ask, are there Orange Park Junior High teachers or staff here?
Oh, yeah.
If you are, stand up. Stand up. Come on. Thank y'all for coming, and thank you for what you do each and every day.
And thank you for being being on time.
And for your gift from the board, you may go home. Okay. If they got a virtual data. Did you? When did you do that? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last call for comment cards. If any of you would like to speak, please raise your hand and get a card filled out. So I guess everybody who wants to speak has turned one in. And before I go any further, Dr. Kemp, can the board put in a work order? We'd like to get lights in the board meeting room instead of putting a third of our audience in the dark.
Tell him he's not allowed to say no.
You can't say no.
Well, through the chair, it's really relaxing over there. I mean, it's really smoothing. It's nice.
But Mr. Davis, I don't want him to go to sleep.
Through the chair, we will make sure that happens.
I think we can probably buy some light bulbs.
Yes, ma'am.
Or find a switch that works or something.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Kemp. Look, he's going to go look and see. Good. Okay. I've lost control. What is it? Okay, we're going to start while Dr. Kemp goes to turn the lights on. Okay, next is presentation from the audience, our public comments. I have one card. The other cards that were filled out, they are on discussion, and I will call those when we take up that discussion item. Okay, this is Gerald Schaefer. If you would just state your name and address, and and you have 3 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
I'm Gerald Schaefer, live at 2020 Pond Ridge Court in Fleming Island. And I make this brief, and it's not going to solve a lot of problems, but I attended the 6th grade graduation. And everything was fine, all the to-dos and everything. And at the end, each teacher got to pick her favorite student. And there were 90+% female teachers, and all the students were 90% little girls. So I asked my grandson what he thought of it. He wasn't very complimentary about it. I'm just saying this is all you would have to do is maybe tell the principals a little bounce. And that sums up. I appreciate your consideration. I was here last month, and I would have appreciated a phone call because you just totally ignored my comments, or I asked a question and got no response at all.
Could you
About-
repeat the question? I'd like to know.
It was about why my taxes increased so much more than the increase in revenues.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. This school. Mr. Schaefer, which school are you referring to tonight? Thunderbolt? Okay. Okay. Ms. Bays is going to come and talk to you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that is the only card. Next, we have the adoption of the consent agenda. Items pulled to discussion were C2. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, or move approval, sorry. Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Bola, a second by Ms. Bullock. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have the CCEA update. Rena Lee Paiva.
Good evening, Renly Paiva, President of CCEA. I thought I would do my update on your legislative priorities, because I'm not going to be here for your discussion of legislative priorities, because I have to go pack so I can get ready for my virtual planning tomorrow.
She's going to,
Shush! My virtual planning. I'm just planning in another country, that's all. Okay.
I can't
So,
tell them where you're going.
Legislative priorities. The first one I would like you all to pay attention to is in the personnel investment under the second bullet, which is about adding the pre-K teachers to the best and brightest, although we wish the best and brightest goes away and dies a horrible death. If you're going to advocate, and we want you to advocate for our pre-K, every time I say something like this, everybody starts getting mad at me, because it's like I talked against them. I'm not talking against the pre-K. Yes, I want you to go after the money for the pre-K. I want you to go after the money for the guidance counselors. I want you to go after the money for the staffing specialists. I want you to go, well, maybe not. No, and I want you to go for the social workers. Everybody, instructional staff, add something to the school system and deserve a piece of this best and brightest if that's the route we're going to go. It's nothing but being divisive in our school system. So if you could please make that correction, or think about making that correction, and not only advocate for the pre-K, but also advocate for our other instructional staff, we would greatly appreciate it. Under the facilities and infrastructure, the PICO funds, it is fundamentally wrong to fund charter schools to the tune of $140 million and give zero to public schools. Zero to public schools. Now, the rationale was this, because I brought it up to the legislators. The rationale is, well, you all can go after sales tax, and the charter schools cannot. How's that working for you? How's that little bid to go after sales tax doing? So it's just kicking the can to you, and now you're going to kick the can somewhere else, because nobody wants to raise taxes. And you cannot let the legislators get away with not funding public schools. The PICO funds should be equally distributed throughout the school systems in the state of Florida, not just the charter schools. Okay, let's back up a little bit. Under the personnel investments, let's talk about teacher salaries. I'm glad you put that on your priorities, but I want to make it real for you. We analyzed the teacher salaries using the data, the last data we had, which was 2019. It doesn't count, doesn't take into effect our raises this year. But I need you to listen to what this is and where we are in relations to our neighbors and where we are in relations to our administrators. 75% of our teachers make $49,714 or less. 75% of our teachers. The mean of our teachers is $47,007.80. That's the mean. The median is $45,561.50. But that doesn't tell the story. There are outliers in our salary schedule that skew the mean and the median. For example, 7 teachers last year made less than $34,000. That means they didn't come in for a whole full year. So they skew to the left. But we have 266 teachers who make more than $56,000, $56,714 to be exact, and they skew to the right, big time. Those people are on different salary scales. They're athletic directors, they're school psychologists, they're occupational therapists, they're speech therapists, and they all have either specialists, and they all have these supplemental that goes into their salary, into their base salary. By the way, this is base salary. This is not talking about supplements at all. This is just salary. So I want you to think about that. So if you add the 266 and you add, and the 7 and the outliers, that's 273 teachers. And statistically, if you know anything about statistics, you remove them because they're outliers. Now you have a mean of the 2,742 teachers last year. Now you have a mean of $45,066.14. That's the mean of the teacher's salary in this school system, this school district. I'm not only concerned about the poor teacher pay, I am equally concerned about income inequity between the teachers and the administrators. Of the 188 district and school administrators, because you remove the cafeteria managers, and you remove the people that skew the administrative mean and median to the left, because cafeteria managers and other IT people who are far less than our staff and instructional administrators and district administrators, so they're the outliers, and you remove them statistically. The mean for the administrators is $75,769.41. And the median is $72,380. The top 25% of the administrators in Clay County make over $85,000. The top 25%. I am not here to argue whether our administrators are overpaid and underpaid. Not my job. Not here to argue that. What I am here to argue is about income inequity. That's what I am here to argue. You have a problem when you have a $30,000 difference between the mean of your instructional staff that directly touch students' lives and the administrative staff at $75,000. That's a $30,000 difference. School systems shouldn't work that way. And you all inherited this. This is habitually, this inequity happened many, many years ago. Because for many years, as the senior staff here will tell you, well, that means Mr. Broski, because the rest of you don't know this, but Mr. Broski would tell you, whatever teachers got for a raise, administrators got. So the inequity happened many, many years ago. That isn't your fault, but it is your problem. Because you have to start closing the inequity between the teacher and the administrator. And for the record, I love my administrators. It's not about them. It's about income inequity. And it's about what it's going to do to your school system. Because I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. You have a silent strike going on in the teaching profession. A silent strike. You have 3,500 vacancies in the state of Florida in teaching. 3,500 right now. It doesn't mean you don't have qualified people out there to be teachers. It means they choose not to be at $39,000. With my master's degree, I'm no longer willing to do it. Not with what's required to the teaching profession. So let's take a look at our neighbors. Nassau County just settled for $2,400 for their highly effective teachers and $1,800 for their effective teacher. They moved their starting pay to $40,000. And yes, we checked the last 3 years, didn't we, Mr. Davis? Mm-hmm. So I don't want to
Through
hear
the chair,
anybody
yes,
to
ma'am.
say, oh, but what we got the last 3 years.
I asked her to do that. She
Yes,
did it.
we did check, okay? St. John's County just settled for $2,051 for their HE, $1,520 for their E. And their starting pay is $39,000. Duval had already, and you all Duval, so you all should know, already had a 3-year contract. $2,001, that kills me, Terry Brady is masterful. $2,001 a year for 3 years. So every year for the last 3 years, they've gotten $2,001. Their effective teachers got $1,000 because that's by law and by formula, okay? They also gave their starting pay for their teachers is $39,500. They also gave $1,500 each of the last 3 years to the top of their scale. So they just keep going up. That's all on their base salary, not talking supplements. Duval also added, Carol, I stuttered, you like this. Duval also added 20 academic supplements. 20. Because of the workloads that's placed on teachers now. Not talking about reducing supplements, added 20 academic supplements. Not more coaches, academic stuff, athletic coaches. Academic supplements. Our starting salary is $38,000. Mr. Davis and I recognize that's a big issue. It's a bigger issue for you now, because that's your neighbors. It is our culture here in Clay County that attracts people, not our pay. But I am fearful, and most of you know this is my last year. I am fearful of what type of teachers you're going to get, certified or uncertified teachers. Because I don't know a way out unless you find a way out of the income inequity in Clay County. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, next is our CESPA update. Teresa Dixon.
So I didn't come quite as prepared as Renee did, but I have about 3 lines here. Teresa Dixon, I'm CESPA president. First of all, I just wanted to say that regarding the negotiations that just occurred, my people are expressing great pleasure in seeing a step increase and seeing the 25 cents added to the pay scale. But I also wanted to reiterate, I was listening to what Ms. Paiva had to say, and I wanted to reiterate, I know that the legislation is really working on teacher and instructional salaries. I don't want you to forget the support. Our support people, the vast majority, I don't have the mean or the medium or the average with me tonight, but I can get it to you. But the majority of our support employees are living on wages that are below poverty level. And right now, the current poverty level for a family of two is $16,910. The majority of our people are surviving on below the poverty level. I think we need to remember that. And like I said, they really do appreciate the 25-cent increase to the pay scale. But I just want to bring to your recognition that the 25 cents added to the 5 cents that we got 5 or so years ago means that probably in around a 10-year period of time, the support staff pay scale has grown by 30 cents. And we can do better than that. But I wanted to also thank the superintendent and the board for doing what's right for kids. That's important. For supporting our employees. Remember our support staff when you go to the legislature and you talk about these increases, you talk about the minimum salaries. We do need to do something about the teachers, but we can't forget the support staff because we are kind of the foundation that helps to create an atmosphere that teachers can teach in. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, superintendent's update and presentations.
Yes, ma'am, to the chair.
And presentations with an S on the end.
Well, see, it's not terribly too bad this evening, but thank you. First and foremost, you know, I appreciate Ms. Paiva, Ms. Dixon for, you know, their presentation. It definitely is a problem inherited, and yeah, I do agree it's ours, but I also commend the board and all of us working collectively over the last 3 years of really trying to give a best effort to make it right and to really try to find funding, you know, over and beyond the historical trends in Clay County. But this, it's openly, we know this, that the job's not over. We have a lot of work to do to continue to show our employees that we truly care and that to incentivize them in the right manner. And I think that this year we took a really large stride, and we're trying to work every single day to make it a healthier place. But I think that our work has to continue. So just, you know, as the year goes on, we'll continue to look at what we have and what we can do. And if there's, you know, efforts that can continue to be made, we definitely will make them. So I commend the board for making it a priority since I've been a leader in this organization. But I also thank Ms. Dixon and Ms. Paiva as well, being a partner in that work along with staff. So we know we have work to do, and we promise to continue to dedicate our time and our efforts to show our employees that we truly do care through, through this body of work. Overall tonight, my presentation for the Superintendent's Update, it's about baseline data sets. And please know, as this data is presented, know that this is where our students are coming in at the beginning of the school year. This is not in any way, shape, or form a reflection of any type of teaching, teaching delivery or content being extended. This is where our students come from after their summer, engagements. And we know that when you see this data, you'll see baseline data, you'll see some of the areas that we may have declined depending on last year's data. And this is, you have to contribute that in iReady this year, we think they've made some adjustments to their predictability. We're having conversations with them to have a better understanding. But this is just a starting point of where our students are and engage to allow our teachers to identify, prescribed learning paths to help our students to be successful as we move forward through these analytics. And iReady, as we know, we use iReady as a Tier 2 support mechanism for our children. You can see this is a comparison, a 3-year comparison of the number of our students that start the school year on grade level. I will tell you that we have had a number of conversations with iReady about their predictability. We know that it's a good treatment program for children to help them meet grade level expectations and scaffold the instructional process. But you can see that right now that in the areas of K through 2, we have work to do looking at the overall proficiency and number of students on grade level. This shows us that we have to roll our sleeves up and go to work, and I'm confident in the ability of our teachers to go and do so. As we look at the comparability for grades 3 through 6, we see some of the same, a percentage decrease in third grade and also in 6th grade, but we're holding our own in 4th and 5th grade with the students who are coming in being exposed to grade level expectations. So, really good viewpoints on 5th grade, excited to see that they've done some really good work. You also have to play that summer learning loss. This is where children sometimes not engage in the academic, and summer learning loss is actually a true indicator or factor when trying to prepare our students to be successful. This is the area of mathematics for our baseline. We kind of stayed neutral in K through 1, and there was a little bit of a drop in 2nd grade due to the complexities of the baseline assessment. This is an area we'll try to focus on. When we talk about preparing our students for grade levels 3 to 12 who have state assessments along the way, we've got to understand that it starts, from cradle to 2nd grade. It is really, truly important that we really focus on early childhood education and make it a true factor and important mechanism within our school district every single day. This is also an analytic from grades 3 to 6. We see once again there, our students came in a different, 1% percentage lower than last year's being on grade level. But once again, we see this trend overall. If you see the trend up from 17-18 to 18-19, and then the trend down, we do think there was an adjustment in iReady, and we'll have that answer soon enough. But this is true analytics and just shows us our starting point for what we have to do. If you look at the other side of it, when looking at baseline level sets from Achieve 3000, just really gets an opportunity for us to look at how students are interacting with complex text. When you look at lifestyle scores, it really focuses on how our students have the ability to comprehend text. And in this analysis, 3 years from, it gives us a part where it breaks it down where what percentage of students are far below, how many students are approaching grade level expectations, how many students are meeting, and how many students are exceeding. You see that the overall trend is moving in a positive direction, which is attractive, saying that our students are being able to read complex text at a greater, higher proficiency level. And this is all that Lexile measures. It measures the quantitative measurement and evaluates the complexities of what children are actually reading in our school district. And this is really encouraging data. You see, when you walk classrooms, there's more of a focus on what the text in front of children. The Lexile scores really identify where a learner is and what their Lexile scores based on grade level. And it really truly helps for a learner to determine whether or not what type of material they're selecting to read, to make certain it's pushing them intellectually and they're not reading something that's far below expectation and it's not letting them move cognitively in the literacy standpoint. So for us, in the area of literacy, we'll continue to focus on the implementation of LAFs. This is our first full year of a supplement material in grades 2 through 6. And we're really going to focus on providing textual evidence within our classrooms where students really have to defend their answers and responses through oral presentation or written presentation, to really use evidence in the academics to provide actual, what their just is and what information they pull from that text. And overall, we're going to continue to use the read, discuss, read protocol. This was a great protocol we used last year, and it's allowing students the opportunity to, read comprehensive text through close reading, annotating text, looking at, and then having authentic discussions and going all the way back through that cycle to really have a better understanding of what they're reading through literacy every single day. So this is really encouraging data. As you look at the baseline data for Algebra 1, we do see that there's a spike of students that are overall approaching from last year. And we have, the good thing is we have new curriculum that we have adopted for the Algebra 1 through Pearson, and we will focus on that new implementation. We think that will be a stronger avenue for teacher and strategies for teachers. And we will get to a part we have provided greater opportunities for students to work through practice grade level problems and aligned assignments and standards through the algebraic thinking process. Same thing with geometry. We see an uptick on the baseline analytics as well. Once again, we have new instructional materials to use. We will really focus in this area to focus on increasing the rigor for multiple exposures of problem sets for our students. We really can focus on building the conceptual understanding of geometry, and then really focusing on having formative assessments that should happen daily with our students, whether it could be, checks for understanding to determine whether or not we have to reteach that concept, or we can truly move forward with teaching the geometric, standards in our class. Fifth grade, this is another celebration in our baseline. It sees that you see the overall proficiency and the 3-year proficiency of our students coming in with meeting the standard, and more of our students are on grade level. We see that's holistically because we have a better opportunity for curriculum guides for our science teachers. It's truly aligned to standards with supplementary resources, and we're doing a better job incorporating spiral curriculum because, as you know, in the area of 5th grade, students are assessed on 4th and 3rd grade standards. And so we got to find a way to build those standards into the 5th grade to make sure that they're exposed to them. But this is a really, this is not a, it's a deficiency for us if we have newcomers who are out of the state because they haven't been in the 5th grade, because they haven't been exposed to 4th and 3rd grade standards in the state of Florida. So we've got to figure out a way to compact those into the lesson and be able to have children to be able to interact with them to be successful. And then we're having more opportunities for students to interact through writing journals, to respond to their standards, and then more opportunities for inquiry-based learning, aligned investigations, where we're not just learning through text, but we're learning through doing and having investigative strategies and science investigations for our students so they can truly make that connection in their classrooms. Same thing with 8th grade. We see an uptick in students of meeting the standards, 1%. We'll take it, and we'll continue to expose them to grade level expectations. And one thing for civics, we see more of our students are approaching, which is attractive for us in that middle bubble level. We'll be able to triage and address those learners to help them continue to be exposed to content, to demonstrate their knowledge through writing activities, small group learning activities, and higher order tasks so they can be successful. And then continue the document-based questioning protocols that we have in our classrooms to allow our children to be engaged in historical primary source documents to be successful in our work. So lots to do for our baseline. This is, it's for us, it's just data for us to look at. It starts the conversation to figure out what we got to do to better help our students. And overall instructional focus for what we're trying to accomplish that we launched this school year is a new theory of action. How can we really take a new theory of action, sharpen our pencil, and really have really central areas of focus in order to lift the instructional process. And this year, the biggest thing that we've gone through, and that you see Terry Connor and Kim Bays really pushing through our school district, along with all of our other leaders, is for our students to, for our school district to continuously, and leaders and teachers work to be relentless in ensuring that we have high quality instruction in every one of our classrooms every single day for our children. And the biggest thing is to make sure that we have high expectation and change the overall mindset that children can't do it, to make certain that they can do it, and being able to hold a belief system that they can meet and exceed grade level expectations, and to make sure that we have strong instruction every single day in our classrooms, and that there is a sense in an environment of authentic, deep engagements where our students are doing the authentic work and then working collaboratively for the learning process. And overall, most importantly, we are focusing on the availability for our children to be exposed to grade level assignments every single day, every minute in our classroom. And we will work relentlessly to make sure this happens, because this is the start of everything to preparing our children to be successful out of the 4 walls we call our classroom in Clay County District Schools. And lastly, I had 2 things left. I want to celebrate our custodial staff members. Yesterday was National Custodial Day. We thank you so much for what you do every single day in our school district. We know you're usually the first to arrive and the last to leave, and we know that you really take care of our structures. And thank you every single day for what you do in this organization. And then next is my champion of change, and I release it back to Mrs. Studdard. So through the chair, address is on file. But, every month I get a chance to acknowledge an employee that really is an exemplar within our school district, and that goes over and beyond the call of duty and is rarely recognized for his or her efforts within Clay County District Schools. And this month, when we talk about getting kids to school, is truly important. We have around 18,000 students that ride our bus system every single day. And the logistics of it, the scheduling of it, the recruiting of it, it is truly difficult to do. It is a job that no one wants to take in our school district. And when I say that, not everyone wants to drive and be involved in transportation. But we have a gentleman that we brought on board in the last year and a half that truly has been transformational in his work. Every single day is a unique day with drivers, with students, with parents, no matter what it is. But we are truly thankful for what he has done in this organization in a short period of time. He has truly transformed the culture in transportation. It is a lovely environment. We have bus drivers and bus monitors being so positive about the work and the culture that has been created. It is my pleasure to acknowledge an individual that has established a safe and welcoming environment for all of our bus drivers, along with developing a positive culture within the transportation department. The champion of change this month is Mr. Daryl Sweat. And that is it for my time. It may be record time, I don't know. I did cut about 15 slides, asked Mr. Connor, and all of Mr. McCauley's slides. He's selective hearing with me, so he doesn't, he only listens.
Okay, now we're going to the discussion items. I was asked, and with the permission of my fellow board members, I have been asked to move C2, that was moved to discussion, to be first. One of the speakers has to get back to Tallahassee, and I told him we would try to accommodate if it's agreeable to y'all. Okay, so we'll take C2 first, approve the final order in case number 18-2333, styled Abby Andrews, Easter Brown, Sherry Deaton, Donna Foster, and Danielle Paracelli, petitioners versus Clay County School Board. This item was pulled by Mrs. Karakas, and then I also have a couple cards on this. Do you want me to do the cards before you speak? Okay. Betsy Rager.
Hi, I'm Betsy Rager. My address is on file. In the fall of 2017, we had 5 teachers who applied for the $1,200 Best and Brightest Scholarship based on their highly effective evaluation for the 16-17 school year. And those applications were rejected by the district. The CCEA helped the teachers through a formal process to protest to the rejections, and the cost to the district to pay out those scholarships would have been about $6,000. So now we've been through a very long and winding legal process, including a hearing before a judge, a hearing before the board, and I don't even want to know how many billable hours from the attorneys that were involved in this issue. Not sure how much we spent to avoid paying this $6,000, but I don't think that was worth it. So we thought after the hearing that this issue was resolved, and you rightly decided that these 5 teachers were entitled to this $1,200 Best and Brightest Scholarship. And I sat in this room over 2 hours of hearing, and I was so proud of you. Over and over, you ruled that these highly effective teachers were eligible for this scholarship, and I believe that you intended for it to be paid. So I'm concerned about the order that you've been provided with tonight. The state of Florida had a deadline for that Best and Brightest Scholarship, a deadline which has long since passed. It passed for the teachers because the district made a decision to deny the application. So the recommended order before you tonight would instruct the district staff to try and get the money from the state 18 months after the deadline. I really hope you've got a plan B. You know as well as I do that the state is not going to release these funds at this point, this long after the deadline for application. And you know that it was the district staff mistake that caused these ladies to be left off the list. So you decided they should have that $1,200 bonus, and your decision should be upheld. So please take whatever action you need to take tonight to make sure that your intent is honored. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is H.B. Stivers. Mr. Stivers, if you just state your name and address
ma'am.
for the record, thank you.
H.B. Stivers, 245 East Virginia Street, Tallahassee, Florida. Madam Chair, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, appreciate the opportunity to come here. You know the road we went down to get where we are now. We're at the final steps of where we have in this process. Thinking back when I left, I believe it was in July when we were here at our board meeting, where we considered the recommended order. And over the last few weeks, we talked in the office, talked with friends, and it's not a legal saying when we come up to and get final order sometimes. We just say they got it right. Whatever the basis is, they got it right. These 5 teachers deserved the scholarship. They earned the scholarship, and you made the decision that they should get the scholarship. Now, when we left the last time, the administrative law judge put in his order that says that staff should reach out to the department and take all reasonable steps to try to make sure that these folks got paid. There was just a tiny bit of discussion at the conclusion of the meeting about whether a motion should be made to see that they got paid. I think that where we stand today is consistent with what the administrative law judge said, is that the staff should reach out. Unfortunately, the feeling I got from this board as well as we want to make sure that these ladies get what they earned and get what they deserve. I have to say that I agree with Betsy. I don't have a lot of confidence in the Department of Education in the state, especially for the length of time that we've been since the deadline passed. Maybe we get it done. Maybe you guys can get it done. Hopefully staff can get it done. But if they can't, I hope that this board steps up and doesn't make the fight that these teachers went through for the last almost 2 years a futile effort. Because if they don't get paid, the last 2 years have been wasted. And I hope that you make sure that these folks get paid. Thank you.
That's the last of the cards, and this was your item, Ms. Karakis, so the floor
Well,
is
I'll go
yours.
ahead and move approval for this, and then we can have discussion.
Okay.
Second it.
I have a motion by Ms. Karakis. Just a minute. Motion by Ms. Karakis, second by Mrs. Bullock.
All right.
Your motion is to accept the order, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So the reason I pulled it, and
Wait.
of course,
Okay.
so the reason I pulled this item is because we are approving the final order. By approving this final order to officially conclude this legal action, as was just said by both Ms. Rieger and Mr. Shriver, there's no guarantee that these employees, these, the individuals, the petitioners, are going to get and receive the money that they were supposed to for the 2017 school year. And, I do feel like our district created this problem, and no offense to our staff at all. The legal counsel we had at the time recommended that we go forward with it, and I did speak out on the board floor about it, but the majority wanted to go forward. I felt that they did deserve it. I think we voted that way, so we all do feel that way. So we are responsible now to approve this order, but in this same thing after we take this vote, and I've spoken to Mr. Bickner, I'm going to make a second motion to instruct our superintendent to pay these 5 employees for what they should have received. And so that's what I have.
Okay, we'll deal with the first motion, which is to approve the recommended order. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0.
Is yours letting you vote? Mine is up. Oh. Not coming up to vote. Yeah.
Okay, and you want to
Tell
make
me
us...
when you're ready. Mhm.
All right, you may proceed.
And Mrs. Bush, I will give you my notes here for the wording on this. So the second motion I have is I move that we instruct the superintendent to immediately pay all 5 petitioners, Abby Andrews, Sherry Deaton, Donna Foster, Easter Brown, and Daniel Perselli, the $1,200 scholarship they would have received under the 2017 school year for the Florida Best and Brightest Teacher Scholarship Program.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Caracas, a second by Mrs. Bullock. Okay, and any discussion now?
My question, I guess, is to Mr. Bickner. If we choose to go ahead and pay these teachers, does that then negate the final order?
No.
So we
What-
still go ahead with the final order. We ask the state to support it.
Yes.
And we might get that money back, but
We
it's
might get
doubtful that we'll
reimbursed.
get that money back since we
Well,
missed
I
every
think we all
deadline.
know it's doubtful that you're going to get it.
They're out of money,
But
yeah.
I think that the effect of the second motion is they go ahead and get paid.
Mhm.
And the effect of the first motion is we try anyway.
Okay.
And so if it comes back, then it offsets. If it doesn't come back, then we tried, DOE failed.
My feeling is this has just gone on way too long. And we're
Way
talking
overdue.
$6,000.
Right.
So, any further discussion?
I would just like to add that, I'm really, as Janice Carrick, school board member, District 1, I'm sorry that this has happened and that we are 2 years out from when these people should have been paid for the work, the service, the educating our children that they actually did. It should never have gotten to this point. And I know the legislature has actually changed, or the DOE has changed the ruling now. This wouldn't even be happening. So I'm glad that we're going to right this wrong, or I hope that we are going to right this wrong. So
Okay.
thank you.
We'll know after we take a vote here. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, you can head for Tallahassee.
Thank you, and thank you for taking it up.
You're welcome.
Ms. Bush, my voting's not working. I don't, so just so you'll keep up with me. Not letting me vote.
Okay, have you got everybody's vote, Ms. Bush?
It's just not letting me.
I actually did mine, but it didn't. Here we go.
Have you got all the votes now? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll go back and go in regular order. D1, 2020 legislative priorities. Mr. Davis?
Yes, ma'am. So we put on some legislative priorities to truly have a focus of the organization. Of these legislative priorities, we took the same, kind of format that the School Board Association took and kind of put them in buckets. And buckets related to personnel, investment, related to safety, related to funding, to be able to push to have attractive mindsets within the organization. So, biggest things for us is to make sure we try to incentivize, properly incentivize our employees in our organization, including our teachers. And I will work Ms. Dixon to definitely address, funding for support staff, but to look at trying to bring back some money for the maintenance initiatives through PICO dollars. I wouldn't disagree that everybody needs PICO dollars, but I can tell you from us being so large, Dr. Kemp would love to have additional funding to continue to help and address our schools, especially in the state that they are with all the deferred maintenance. And then overall, making certain that we address the particular part of assessments. I have said from day one, and I believe some of the board agrees as well. I don't want to speak on your behalf, that high-stakes assessments sometimes are too much and too often in education. I am all for about accountability within our school districts, but I do believe that from the secondary perspective, that we should be able to remove these state assessments for FSA and EOCs and transition to making certain that we are more of a national competitive standpoint and using SATs and ACTs as the foundational points. Because our children deserve to be able to compete nationally, not only throughout the state. So when they do that application for Harvard or for University of Oregon or for Stanford, or for the University of Georgia, whatever it may be, one of the questionnaires is not going to ask our students how well they did on the state FSA. It's just not going to be asked. And, it's not fair to our children to continue to take assessment after assessment after assessment. And, we got to be really intentional and draw down and mainstream this component where our children are being able to, give inspiration, inspired, that they can take the state SAT and SAT assessments at a young age, at 10th grade or 11th grade, to be able to say that they do have the knowledge and ability to compete at the collegiate level. And I think this will be a mainstream part, and I think if the board takes this stance, I think it'll allow us to create movement within the state and really drill down and focus. And I also think that we, in this module, is to bring some funding to dual enrollment. We're thankful that the state gives us money for textbooks, but it doesn't pay for tuitions and, for our school district. And I think we spend over $600,000 toward tuition, toward dual enrollment, which I love because it's the right thing to do for children. It gives them opportunity to be accelerators in the classroom and through collegiate courses, and it saves our parents millions of dollars in the school district. But just trying to recoup some of that funding so we can use that money elsewhere within our school district. And then the last part that I think that I like to, we always incentivize teachers for best and brightest. We incentivize our AP teachers for those who pass AP examinations. I think we should incentivize dual enrollment teachers as well. They go and they get kids who, they teach kids in high school children at collegiate courses, and I think they should be incentivized in the same manner as AP teachers, which I think is $50 per assessment. I think our dual enrollment teachers should be incentivized $50 for every credit as well. So, lots to think about. I thank the board for, pushing me to make sure this is here. I should have brought it last month, but we will get it right and we'll create our push to our local legislators.
Okay, any comments from the board?
I have a couple. First of all, the first thing that we have out of the box is safety and security. And I know that the public is hearing us say safety and security over and over again in the needs. And I hope that people were listening to Mr. Ward earlier when he said, this is not a one and done. This is something that is going to have to continue to be upgraded and updated and we know technology is old the next day after something comes out. So that is critical that we continue to ask for that, since that was not necessarily supported by the legislature when they first made those requirements of us. In the jumping down to the best and brightest, I wish we could be a little bit stronger on this and encourage the legislature to dump it. Get rid of the best and brightest and treat pre-K through K teachers, guidance counselors, coaches, everyone as professionals. Because we are all getting incredibly tired of hearing that pre-K teachers are not considered regular classroom teachers. And if you have ever gone into a pre-K classroom or a VPK classroom, I applaud every last one of them because they are incredible individuals that have the patience of beyond. I mean, and so I know that we can't come out and say, get rid of it,
Yes, ma'am.
but truly, I'm hoping
They'll get rid
in
of it.
some discussion with the
Yes,
legislature
ma'am.
coming up, I truly hope that they do say the best and brightest has been patched too much. And we need to move that aside and we need to put our money where our mouth is and start paying our teachers.
ma'am.
So hopefully we'll go in that
Okay.
direction. The last thing is the SAT and the ACT. When I first read that, I was somewhat concerned Because I thought, what about our CTE graduates? And what about those students who are not going to college? What about those students who are going into the military? We need a test in that respect as well. What I was not aware of was that ACT has a non-college bound version of the ACT. And I don't know that the public is aware of that. So I wanted to bring that up. In addition, I believe the College Board is now moving towards having a non-college bound SAT as well. And it would be ideal to save the money that the state puts into the FSA program and pays for the ACT, SAT, whatever version those students are able to take. And when you see the students who have tried the FSA and have failed or have not passed everything that they need to pass, and we can step up to them and say, this test isn't working for you. We want to offer you another test. We wanted to offer you something different. And by the way, you have more time in which to take this test. And that's the non-college bound ACT or SAT. And wow, a student feeling fulfilled, a student feeling proud of what they're accomplishing, that's the goal of these tests. Not, as you said, for a college to look and say, oh, were you a 1, 2, 3, 4? No, they don't.
matter.
Okay.
Those are the two. Thank you.
I was remiss in not getting a motion and a second before.
Oh, I do
before you talk.
apologize.
So let me get a motion and a second, and then we'll continue with the discussion on this.
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendations for our legislative agenda for this year.
I'll second.
Who said?
Go ahead.
Second it, I did. Ms. Bola, motion by Ms. Bola, second by Ms. Bullock.
And consider all of that discussion just repeated right now, okay? Got it.
Okay. Anyone else have some discussion on this?
Well, I agree with Mrs. Bola and Ms. Paiva about the adding all their teachers to that one section, guidance, staff, specialist, all of them. If they're instructional, they should certainly all
Yes.
be. So I would like us to accept it with that added into it.
What do you want added?
And
you
well,
have the
here's the question,
language?
is there more than just that one sentence that we want to add, or do we need to send it back and make the other changes Ms. Bullis referencing and bring it back in November?
So through the chair, the way I see it, the only change would need to be is to the personnel investment, would be to make sure that we address all employees.
Yes.
And with that, if we can do that, that want to be just a little language change.
So,
And,
Mr. Bickner, do we need to amend the motion, or can it stand as is?
In the past, we've never amended a document and
Okay.
it's amended and brought back. So I don't see that you can amend the document itself. It's more than a Scrivener's error or a Scrivener's change here. This is changing the
Let's see.
guts of it.
This is October, that'd be November. When does legislative session start?
January.
January.
Yeah, I mean, we still,
through the chair, the good thing is we still have time and we
Yeah.
really know the basis of
Yeah.
what we're trying to accomplish. And this is just, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
This is one of the recommendations because I knew this was going to be a big push and, but I agree that we could add all employees and be ready to go.
Okay,
I would just suggest that be a separate bullet point.
Okay.
okay. Okay, anybody else have any discussion? I just want to ask something, and it could just be me, but I didn't notice it when I was studying my backup, but under safety and security, it says provide sufficient and flexible funding in the Safe Schools allocation to hire and retain qualified resources officers. Shouldn't it be resource officers?
Resource officers.
When I was reading it, I thought, I didn't catch that when I was looking
There are
at it.
abundance of resources.
No, but I think we need to take an S off of that.
All right.
Okay. I don't want to send it to Tallahassee and we don't know how to write a sentence. Okay.
That's a new terminology.
And also, that is going to tie in when we get into the SRO item on our agenda, the providing sufficient and flexible funding in the safe school allocation. So I'm glad to see that that's there. So we'll talk about that when we get to that item. Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Bullock, a second by Ms. Bullock, and so what they're going to do is bring it back next month, with the,
Well, you've got a motion on the floor, and I'm wondering if you need to withdraw your motion because it's to accept as it is.
okay,
We're not
all right.
accepting.
Let's see who wants to withdraw their motion in second. Bola and Bullock?
Yes, we'll withdraw. And Mr. Bickner, we
Withdraw.
can't make another motion with those changes?
To amend the document, I don't think that you can because you advertised it in one way, and that's what the
Thank you.
public
Yep,
was
you're right.
expecting to see and hear. And under the new statute, or the old new statute that was passed in 2013, they have an opportunity to speak to that.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion
No, they've withdrawn.
that, so do we have, so do we need a motion that
It's-
we're gonna
it's-
bring it back next month? Or,
You could make that motion and, or you can just instruct the superintendent that, or there can be no motion. If there's
Okay.
no motion to do anything with it, then it fails, and you can instruct the superintendent to bring it back next month with the changes that you recommended.
okay,
Either
that
way,
sounds
I'm
good. Mr. Davis,
Yeah, well, I'm good.
you good?
I'm good either
You
way.
good, okay. All right, then we will bring that back next month. D2, consider moving the December 5th, 2019 regular meeting to Thursday, December 12th, 2019. And I submitted this because the Florida School Board Association conference is that week, and board members won't be here to have a board meeting. We'll be in Tampa. So I'll entertain a motion on moving the December meeting.
I'll move approval.
Have a motion by Ms. Gilhousen, a second by Mrs. Bola.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
may I make one comment, please?
yes.
December the 12th, I have made plans for, that I cannot change. And so I have no objection to you going to the 12th, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I will not be available that day for a school board meeting.
We searched high and low for a date. December gets a little bit crazy.
I don't think that there'll be any issues that are insurmountable. I think everything will work just fine. I'm just saying that I can't be here. I'm happy to always meet with, talk with, or go over anything that may be a bumpy road before we get there, always, just as I always am. So,
We can get our legal questions answered, when will you,
text me in the meeting.
how
I'll-
long will, how many days will you be gone? So we can,
It's just for the day.
oh, okay.
Actually,
So we
it's
can
just
call
for,
you the day before if we have a question.
certainly, or up to 5 o'clock the day of the meeting.
Okay.
And
sounds
usually
good.
that's a shorter meeting that.
And usually the
Christmas.
Christmas meeting, everybody's in the Christmas mood, and it's a very short agenda, and
I was
and we
gonna wear
don't
a hat
have,
and everything.
and we don't have long reports and data.
Yeah.
You know, I'm,
Nothing controversial.
No, okay. So I had a motion by Ms. Gilhousen, a second by Mrs. Bola. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Let's see. The next item is D3, discuss and give direction to the superintendent for providing school resource officer coverage for district charter schools. This was submitted by Ms. Gilhousen, and before I turn it over to you, I'll call on the cards to speak to it, then we'll get a motion, and then we'll talk. Excuse me?
I don't see that it's an action item. It's a give direction, which generally would be by the consensus of the board.
Okay. All right, the first speaker, Trish Diggins. Ms. Diggins, if you'll just say your name and address for the record, and then you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, I am Trish Diggins. I live at 1301 Portside Drive. I have been in Clay County for over 15 years now. I appreciate the job that you do, and I know how difficult it is. My mother served in the Florida school system for more than 40 years, so I have done a lot of
Congrats to her.
volunteering and a lot of participating in school events, and I continue to do that with my daughter.
Good.
The topic being school safety. I'm not going to argue whether you like charter schools or you don't. don't care. I don't even care if you like me. What, what I do care
We
about.
like you.
Thank you.
Okay.
What I do care about is the safety of all the kids in Clay County. It's wonderful that we have STEM programs and all these wonderful things, literature and reading and math and all these programs and all the positive things that we want to do for our kids. But I'm telling you, if someone unfortunately decides to do something tragic, none of that's going to matter. You can have, excuse my bluntness, dead kids bleeding on the floor, dead teachers, some crazy nut making us another Sandy Hook. It's not going to matter. I don't want you to be the school board and us be the parents that said, well, that's what we decided to cut. Of all the things that I expect out of Clay County and sending my kid to school and trusting you with her, the absolute light of my life is that you provide for her security and her safety, doing everything that you can. We've got 2 lovely officers here today for less than 100 people. If we're good enough as adults to need that kind of security, certainly our children, our future, the people that we are here for deserve the same. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next, I have, it's Andrea and Mark Smith. Which one of you? Okay. Mark Smith.
Mark Smith, 2100 Watercrest Drive. I'm not sure what else to say on top of what she just said. That was pretty much to the point. I don't know what else you could say about that, but we have 3 children attending public schools in Clay County. 2 of them attend St. John's Classical Academy. We are here tonight because the lives and safety of the children in our schools should be a top priority in our society today. Per Florida Statute 1002.33, charter schools are public schools, and charter students are public school system students. We are requesting that this school board and our county provide all schools in Clay County the same protection. Per our statute 1002.33, the charter schools are in fact a public school, and this board must recognize that fact. To exclude charter schools from state and county funding would be a blatant ignorance of the state of Florida's ruling per 1002.33. Let's abide by our state's ruling and provide all children in Clay County the same opportunity, the equal opportunity to have a safe school. And I think she made the point best. There's less than 100 adults here tonight, and there's 2 security officers here. If the people in this room are more worried about your safety than our kids' safety, then we have a serious issue. Our kids are way more important than I am, than you are. So why we have 2 people here tonight guarding us and not the same guardians over our public schools, which encompasses our charter schools, blows my mind. And what she had to say really spoke to me, and I hope it speaks to you guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And the next speaker, Sarah Davis.
Hello, I'm Sarah Davis. Remember me from last month? My address is on record. This is my beautiful daughter. She attends one of Clay County's public school charter schools. Take a look at her. How beautiful is she? How could you risk her life? It's just unacceptable. Politics aside, she is a beautiful human being, and she deserves to be treated as such. This county, she is part of a public school system, and the Florida Department of Education recognizes charter schools as public schools and should be treated as such.
I have 2 children attending that school, and I will in the future have 4 children attending that school. Their safety is above anything else. If you saw 2 children playing on the street and you saw that there was danger coming, would you try to save one versus the other? You would try to save both. Now, one's wearing a uniform. Do you still try to save one versus the other, or do you still try to save both? You are discriminating against my child, my children, and it is unacceptable. I actually kind of laughed today because when they mentioned your name, Mr. Davis, my daughter said, "Are they talking about my daddy?" Well, I guess we're kind of family. We're part of the Clay County
Is there
family.
something you hadn't told us?
So I'm sure we're related along the lines of all the Davises at some point. But that brought up a good point to me. The people that attend both charter schools are neighbors. They are family members. They are cousins. They are aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters. And every life matters, not just some. Clay County says, you know, one Clay, but it's kind of like some Clay versus one Clay, and we need to change that. Eleanor has something to tell you. What's the motto of your school, Eleanor? Okay, so after your Pledge of Allegiance, what do you do every single day? But what's your motto? So learn the true, do the good, and love the beautiful. They say that every single day. And I want you guys to learn the truth that Clay County or that charter schools are part of public schools. I want you to do the good and give them what they deserve as a resource officer provided by you guys. And I want you to love the beautiful. How could you not love this beautiful child? That's all I have to say, and I hope that you guys make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last speaker, Cheryl Banks.
Good evening. I'm Cheryl Banks. This is my son Daniel, 2053 Pompano Parkway, Orange Park, Florida. I'm here also to speak about the request for a Clay County School Board officer at the charter schools. Specifically, my son attends St. John's Classical. The bottom line is not about this, is not that what your opinion is on Clay charter schools or about money. It's about people. It's about children, and it's about your colleagues and their protection and their safety while they are serving this community. They are as precious and as important as any other student at any other Clay County public school. Recently, I felt very encouraged when I heard our Mr. Davis speak after a disruption at Oakleaf High School. And to quote you, you said that you would continue to make the right decisions in order to continue to create a safe environment for every facility and school within Clay County. Having heard that, I trust that you will make the right decision and that you will choose to protect all students and staff in Clay County, including the charter schools. Thank you very much for serving the people of Clay County, and thank you for letting me speak. Have a good evening.
Thank you. And now I'll bring it back to Ms. Gilhousen.
Point of order before Ms. Gilhousen speaks. I was so concerned when you brought this item and put it on the agenda because it's extremely incomplete. Starting with the title of it, we don't have any district charter schools. They're privately run public schools, if you want to call them public schools. A district charter school is a charter school that is formed, organized, and run by the Clay County School District. The school is not. There's no financial impact here. There's no description. There's no plan. As Mr. Bickner said on our last item, we have to advertise to the public so they know what we're discussing if we take action and how it will affect them. And this is incomplete. And it's just a little disturbing. You've been on the board 5 years now, and I know that you've seen and know how to submit an item. So I think that the right thing to do would be to bring this back to us when it's complete, when you have the financial impact, when you have some backup information, so that we'll know what we're discussing to instruct the superintendent to do. We'll know what the financial impact will be to Clay County School District.
Well, Ms. Karakis, at our workshop agenda meeting, I asked at that time, does everybody have what they need to make a decision at this board meeting? And everyone was in agreement that they did. So if you had a problem with the item, that would have been the appropriate time to address it. I'm comfortable moving forward.
I have a problem with the whole thing. I have a problem with the title and everything, and I think that you as a board member should really have gotten it right before bringing it to us.
I believe I did get it right, but you're
Oh.
entitled to your opinion.
This leaves a lot to be desired. But go move forward if you're comfortable with it, Mrs. Stutter.
Okay, Ms. Gilhousen, you have the floor.
So at the request of the board of St. John's Classical Academy, I placed this item on the agenda. They had done a survey amongst parents at the school regarding the parents' preference for the school safety plan, whether to have the guardian program like they've had since last year, or if they were, if parents preferred a school resource officer, a sworn deputy. And overwhelmingly, the parents replied that they wanted a deputy. And they wanted to be treated like every other school in our district. As a board, we asked voters to help us provide resource officers for every public school in Clay County through the One Mill Initiative. And I think there was no question about which public schools we would cover. The initiative was to cover all public schools with a sworn deputy. As a board, we decided that that would be the best approach to protect the kids in our schools. It does appear there's some legal differences of opinion on jurisdiction. We have a judge's order from an administrative law judge in Tallahassee about it being the onus of the school board and the superintendent to provide an officer. That was a ruling a couple months back. Mr. Bickner has raised some concerns. The attorney for St. John's Classical Academy has responded. So in light of all of that, I think specifically the jurisdictional issues need to be worked out, because I don't see it any differently as how we allow the town of Orange Park, the city of Green Cove Springs Police to operate on some of our campuses within their jurisdictions. So in light of all of that, I move that we allow the superintendent the latitude to secure a resource officer for the charter schools as he deems in the best interest of the children on that campus. Like I said, there are issues that need to be worked out, and I think that the most prudent thing for us to do as a board is not to tie his hands to any one particular option, but to allow him to work with all the stakeholders involved to make the best decision for the kids on those campuses.
I will second that so that we have the opportunity to discuss.
There was a, did she make a
She
motion?
made a motion to allow the superintendent to reread your motion.
I move that we allow the superintendent the latitude to secure a resource officer for the charter schools as he deems in the best interest of the children on that campus.
And I second her motion. And I'm willing to discuss if we can proceed.
Okay, yeah. So there is a motion on the floor from Ms. Gilhousen, a second by Ms. Bola. Yeah, we need to have a lot of discussion on this. So who wants to start with the discussion?
I've said my
You've
piece.
said
I'd be
your
happy to
piece. All right, Ms.
respond
Bola.
once we have some discussion.
May I
Go right
be
ahead.
heard?
All right, Mr. Bickner?
This is not an action item at which a motion can be made. There has been no advertisement of a motion being made. There has been nothing to put the public on notice that you're going to move to hire, appoint, assign, or enter into a contract with a resource officer for any charter school. There's nothing in the notice here that allows that. It says give direction, and I think you can give the direction to the superintendent to
Without voting.
consider with a consensus, but you can't direct him to do something that will be binding contractually on anyone.
May I ask for further clarification then?
Sure.
Are we allowed then, since this came up as a discussion item,
Mhm.
without the motion, we are still allowed to discuss so that we can
Right.
reach that full consensus should that come about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's
I
what
just
it's here
wanted to be
for, is to
So
discuss.
y'all withdraw your
And
motion
the
and
cons-
second.
the
Okay,
consensus
yeah,
may
proper.
be, we would like you to investigate what the cost would be to enter into a contract for A, B, C, or D, or to do some other thing, and then he can investigate and bring back to the board, or provide information to the board in the interim, and then at some point, Ms. Gilhousen, you could actually put something on the agenda, and I'm not criticizing, that says, move approval of a contract or move approval of something, but at this point, we have no motion that's been given for the public to consider to respond to.
I understand your point, and I'm fine with just getting consensus, because
Okay.
my
I-
whole intent here was not to give the superintendent specific instructions so as go engage Clay County Sheriff's Office. That's not my intent here. My intent is that we give him the latitude to work out the details and then bring it back to us.
Yeah, and I think having discussion tonight, there's some things that I want to talk with you ladies about, and some things that the speakers brought up that I want to clarify to them what our possible actions could be legally. And so I want us to have a chance to talk through this and for them to understand it goes far beyond us wanting to keep all of our children safe. We all, we all want the kids to be safe regardless of where they go to school. So, and we do recognize that charter schools are public schools. That says it's in the law. But I think there's a lot of discussion. There's some things that I want to say, but I want to hear the discussion here because there's some things we can't do. Okay, so I'll start with you, Ms. Bowley. You said you wanted to start it.
And I just wanted to sort of go back to what we had started discussing at the last meeting, and a number of people had come up and spoken to it as well. Charter schools, by law, are considered public schools. That was brought up in Mr. Bickner's documentation. And I think the key point right here, right now, is that we do have a guardian at each, I know that we have a guardian at St. John's Classical. And when I visited Clay Charter last year, they had engaged state patrol officers who were off duty, on duty, whatever, as their support people as well as their SROs. So our students are truly there's someone on each of those campuses to protect our students to start with. We're not leaving anybody out. We have 1,200 children at those schools. 1,200 children at those schools. And when we had the 1 mil passed for safety and security, original information, way back at the beginning, we were including all 43 schools in that documentation, and it came back to just the 41. It is, I think, imperative that we support the children in those schools in whatever way that we're able to. Now, and the able is where we've hit a number of rocky spots, because putting our police force into those schools could be considered a difficult situation. We currently provide some finances to the charter schools. It's my understanding we provide $36,000 to the charter schools. And in the contracts that we have with Green Cove Springs and with Orange Park, I believe we pay those officers approximately $67,000, give or take a few hundred. So let's say 68, just to round it up, 68,000. So when I was trying to work through all of this and reading Mr. Arnold's letter as well as our response to that, the bottom line is that we would have difficulty putting our employees on those campuses. I would like to see us use our millage money, part of our millage money, to supplement those two schools so that they would have the opportunity, and it would be up to 68,000, just what we pay the Green Cove Springs or the Orange Park Police Force, to supplement them so that they have the opportunity, if they want additional guardian or whatever, to be able to have an SRO on their campuses as well. We haven't heard from Clay Charter, so I'm not certain,
They haven't asked for anything.
and that's why it's difficult to say, because what we do for one, we will need to do for the other. That's from my perspective. I don't know if that's in agreement, whatever. That's my thought process, just
Okay.
throwing it out.
Okay, Ms. Bullock?
You know, when I originally saw this, of course, I thought that it was really speaking to both of the charter schools. I was a little confused when it came back and it looked like it was just one, because it would seem like I say, it'd be for whatever, for both, whatever we decide. The other thing again, I think Mr. said, it might be difficult, or maybe you did, Ms. Bowl, about for our deputies to be at the schools, because it's not our school property. It belongs, it's privately owned. So that's a concern. It's just like, every school has, or you have categorical money or things that go for, like, for example, one school might not be a Title I. Suppose they said, well, I'd like some Title I resources and I want some of that. Well, you're not eligible for that. Or, you might, like, for example, the charter schools get PICO money. Suppose we were to go to the charter schools and say, we want some of that PICO money to come back to the school district. That wouldn't be okay either. So I think we just have to be careful of what we're going to do. And my concern with this was that we didn't have a financial impact. What exactly? And I guess you're asking now the superintendent to look into all that, because it seems like it would not be one of our school resource officers to be either a deputy or something like that. And I think their price is probably a little higher than ours is, from what I can tell. So anyway, that's all.
Okay, Ms. Karikas?
Where do I begin? I had so many issues with this, and I sent my questions, so you already know what most of my issues were. The insurance, the legal liability, chain of command, jurisdiction, and Mr. Bickner answered all those questions for us, and we know that the police department that you did not vote for cannot be used at one of your charter schools.
That's really unnecessary, Ms. Karikas.
It's the way it is. And as far as the millage goes, I'm going to read you what was on the ballot so that you'll remember for the millage that you also didn't vote for. Shall an additional 1 mil
So
of
let me
school
get this
district
straight,
ad
because I
valorem
didn't vote
millage
for the
tax
police department,
begin
and
July
because I
1,
didn't vote for the
2019,
1 mil.
ending June
Wait
30th,
just a minute.
2023.
Wait just a minute.
Be approved, I'm
You'll
speaking.
have an opportunity, and
Thank you.
you do what you want to do, but let's stop.
I'll repeat it for you. Shall an additional 1 mil of school board ad valorem millage tax beginning July 1, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2023 be approved to enhance the safety and security of students and staff and provide for necessary operating expenses of the school district. That is for school district funds, for properties we own, for staff that we hire, for students that attend our schools. And there's absolutely no reason that you can't go and contract with somebody from the Clay County Sheriff's Office. But we cannot use millage money. The state is very clear on that. We had to advertise what it would be used for. It's used for the Clay County School District. So we can't use that.
Our charter schools are part of our district.
They're privately run.
Ms. Gillhausen.
They are not school district charter schools. There is a difference. Look it up. A district-run charter school would be if one of our schools failed so miserably that we decided to turn it over and take it on as a charter school ourselves. There is a difference. So we do not have, as is in your title, any district-run charter schools. We have a privately run, your mom is here, she's the owner of it, president or whatever, chairman. In all the paperwork, you still have the sheriff on your board. So I'm sure that he'd be happy to help you with the funding, or maybe the county commissioners could. But to use our funds, and then the other thing is if we took it out of the general fund and we used our FTE dollars, well, your school is already receiving FTE dollars. So now you're taking FTE dollars away from the kids in our schools. which doesn't seem right to me. And then, you know, how responsible with the FTE dollars is that school when we've heard that they haven't met their class size for the class size amendment and they're looking at a penalty? So, you know.
That's news to me.
Well,
Okay.
it's the truth.
Is it?
You look into it
Okay,
and you will see.
ladies.
So there's so many things wrong with this that I can't get behind using the dollars from our school district for our school, the schools that the county is responsible for. Your school has its own governing body. They are responsible for that school and the children that are at that school. And absolutely, you should have a resource officer, but it should be funded by your board and not by this board. And I almost wonder, is it even a conflict that you're sitting here as a school board member speaking on behalf
Oh,
of
I can answer
the
that.
school?
I reached out to the
I know
Commission
you
on
did.
Ethics this week, and I have a written opinion that states that
I'm
there is
glad to
no
hear
conflict
that.
of interest.
It just doesn't, it's like, you know, somebody said before, if it doesn't pass the smell test, it just looks unethical, as if you're
Well, the
sitting up
Commission on
here
Ethics says it doesn't, so.
doing something
Ladies,
for the school that your
this
mother
has to
runs, that your
stop.
children go to. It
This
just
has
doesn't
to
look
stop
right.
now.
It doesn't look right. I'm sorry.
It doesn't
I'm not
look
finished. I still
good.
have more.
How much
So,
more have you got?
I'll let you know when I'm done. This is my opportunity to speak, Mrs. Studdard.
Yeah,
Please
but
don't shut it down.
Please speak, but do not attack fellow board members.
And I take great umbrage to the fact that you keep referring to it as my school and my board.
Ms.
I serve
Gilhousen?
on this board.
Ms. Gilhousen?
Are you sure?
Ms. Gilhousen, I'm going to handle this. Ms. Kirikas, you may speak, but you may not attack another board member.
I'll be nice, or I'll try to be nice. All right, so next on my list. You know, last month, or several months back, when I brought something up about the, a K-8 here on Fleming Island, and said, you know, we should talk about the sales tax, everybody said, well, that's not what's on the agenda here. And again, I'm going to go back to you referring to these as district charter schools, and your whole item having no information there. So I'm asking that if it has to be paid through FTE dollars, that Mr. Davis, could you have Dr. Legucco look and see, could we even possibly use FTE dollars that are designated for the Clay County School District for our property-owned schools to fund this for their charter school? And I know, just looking at the resolution for the millage, that we absolutely cannot. So we cannot use millage money. I would be shocked if you come back with something that says that we can. Thank you, Mrs. Studdard.
There's a part of me that wants a 5-minute break before I say anything, but let's proceed on. First of all, I want to say to all of y'all, from the charter school or so forth, charter schools are public schools. That's in the law, period. Now, we have seen memorandum from our attorney. We have seen from the charter schools attorney. We saw his letter. From the information that we have gathered, Mr. Bickler really did a nice job on this last memorandum. It says that the school board must participate in at least one of the 4 options that we have for safety, one being an SRO, which is what we had when we contracted with the sheriff's office. Those are SROs. What we have in our schools today are SSOs, school safety officers. They are our employees by us. And the reason we went to school safety officers is because we were being charged $101,500 for each SRO that we had who were sheriff's officers' employees. We asked to have that, please pare down, take a fine pencil, take a pencil to it, try to lower it. We could not get 1 nickel reduced off of it. So we chose then to form our own police department with Chief Wagner as the chief, and it has been very successful. I've been so impressed, and we are proud that we have our school safety officers. Now, the other thing were guardians, which I understand that there is a guardian right now at the charter school. Is that correct, Ms. Hutchins? Okay. Now, guardians, they can carry guns, but they cannot make any arrests, and so they're limited there. Let me back up too on the SSOs, the school safety officers. Our jurisdiction is on school board owned property, and from what Mr. Bickner has said to us, we can't put our SSOs on property that's not owned by the school board. That seems to be a source of contention, but Mr. Bickner has stated that it's in statute, and so that kind of ties our hands. So then the guardians and then the security guards, which are just people like they have at Walmart, just a security guard. So that's out. So if we can't put an SSO at the charter school because it's not school board owned property, then that leaves you with guardian and SRO as the two options. I'm glad, Ms. Hutchins, that you're here tonight, because what I was thinking is, it was 67 or 68 that we used for our SSOs, and that was a lot less expensive than a $101,500 per head. You can understand the position we were in. What I don't know is if we, as I understand it from Dr. Legutko today, you will be receiving $36,000 in safe school money this year, based on the enrollment you have now. It was 31 last year, and she said it'll be 36 this year based on your enrollment. What is the enrollment there?
680, I believe.
680?
686.
Well, Dr. Legutko confirmed to me today that it would be 36,000 safe school money, which is good. Everybody can use the safe school money, but
My understanding, though, is that what was received was 13,000. So I don't know what the discrepancy is. But
she said it was 31 last year.
the number I.
Yeah, so through the chair, can I ask, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No.
I'm sorry.
We need to
So,
talk this out.
Dr. Legutko, can you confirm, my understanding is that last year it was $31,000 based on FTE that was provided to this particular school. And this year, based on FTE, due to the fact that there was expansion, I believe, of around 92 students, and there was going to be an additional funding based out of Safe Schools money that would take that 31, interject that up to $36,000.
Yeah.
Can you, I mean, can you confirm that?
Yes, through the chair. Yes, that is correct. I do want to add that the calculation for the charters is based on their enrollment throughout the year, so it fluctuates. So the first enrollment numbers are based on estimate. We are getting ready to do our third calculation, the October FTE count. When those numbers are final, another calculation is done, and the amount is based on that at that time, and at that time, how much funding is directed to the charters. Excuse me.
And through the chair, Dr. Legutko, could this be a part where it's not wholesale lump sum money extended, it is prorated based on the calculations throughout the year? So it'd be 4 installments of the funding that there would be, or 3?
It's actually, depending on the contract with
Okay.
the charter,
Okay.
it is actually 24
Four.
payments.
Okay.
Charter schools are given their funds either once a month, based on the agreement on the contract, or twice a month based on the dollars that we receive from the state. We get our funding the 10th of every month from the state, and those dollars, we are required by statute to give the charters those dollars. I believe it's 15 days after we receive our funding. So it's like the 10th and the 26th or something like that each
And
month.
last question to the chair, can you make sure, and I'll send a follow-up email as well, at our communication as well, or we can do it now, and this be my communication. Can you go and look at all the installments to make certain that they receive that funding as well, so we can validate, and if there hasn't been, make
Right.
certain that they're in the right direction?
As an FYI, the calculations are done about 5 times a year. The first is the projection, which is the conference report. That's done at the beginning of the fiscal year. The second calculation is done in October when we are doing our October FTE. Third calculation is done in February when we take another look at what our enrollment figures are. Another calculation is done in the summertime for the schools that go year-round, like the DJJ. Those schools go all year round, so a calculation is done. That's the fourth calc. Coming up, there is a fifth calc for the prior year. The fifth calc, believe it or not, we actually get the final numbers. We should have received it any day now, which is October. However, it's due to be released. Once those numbers are released, another calculation is done to finalize exactly where we ended up. Based on the FTE, an adjustment is made up or down for the amount of dollars that are given to our charters and DJJ schools. So there is one more adjustment that could potentially impact the final numbers that is given to the charter schools.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, Mr. Bickner, you sent us a memorandum, and can you read the statute that says that the school safety officer cannot perform off of school district-owned property?
I'll read you the statute, but you have to understand it doesn't say that directly. What it says is,
What
and I'm
does
going to
it
read
say?
it to you.
Okay.
It says that they cannot arrest an individual except on district school board property. Okay, that's what it says. They can't make an arrest. They are in the business of enforcing the law and keeping the peace with the threat of arrest and the threat of carrying a firearm. That's their business and that's their job. So when they're doing their job, they're in a position to use a firearm or make an arrest or do whatever else they need to do physically to make that peace occur. They can only do that job on district school board property. They can only carry a firearm when they are doing their job as a school safety officer. That's what 1006.12 says. And I'll read the one section to you that says, but you have to extrapolate from one thing to another. If you're going to do your job, you have to be able to make an arrest. If you're going to do your job and make an arrest, you have to be able to carry a gun. You can only carry a gun in certain circumstances. You can only make arrest on district school board property. That's the way the flow of the extrapolation works. What it says is, a school safety officer has and shall exercise the power to make arrests for violations of law on district school board property, and to arrest persons whether on or off such property who violate any law on such property under the same conditions that deputy sheriffs are authorized to make arrests. So they can make an arrest. That's similar to Section 901, which is a hot pursuit. A police officer can exceed his jurisdiction in hot pursuit for something that occurred in his jurisdiction. And so what that's saying is you can only make an arrest on school district property, school board district property, or off of the property for something that occurred on the property. It is extremely limited. And I have conferred with numerous lawyers, most of whom work for sheriffs, and they said that my interpretation of that jurisdictional limitation is correct. And I have also talked to a state agency about it, and they have read it and said that they agree with my interpretation. Okay. So I am very confident that our school officers cannot go to a private school ground, which is the public school, but it's private property, and act as a police officer. The only charter school that I think they could do it on, and I think I pointed that out in my memorandum, is if we had a conversion charter, where we took some, for instance, say you decided that there was a failure of one of the elementary schools, and you said, we're going to do a conversion charter, have a charter take over, it's going to remain at that school site,
That'd be
And
our
we're going,
property.
and then it's still our property. The other thing that I think would be, if the school at some point outgrew something and had to lease space, that district school board property, I think you could try to interpret as,
Okay.
or that rental property, since you are the leaseholder and you have certain rights that are the equivalent of being the owner, would be considered district school board property. But that's kind of a stretch, and I don't know the answer to that for certain.
Okay. Okay. So, Ms. Gilhousen, I'll ask you, or I don't want to bring your mom up unless we get into. So right now they have a guardian. Is that contracted for this school year?
Yes, it is.
That person?
Yes.
Okay. So if they want more than a guardian at the charter school, and they want an officer there who can make arrest and do all the things that our school safety officers does, it seems like to me, on our attorney's advice, is that it would have to be an SRO then, which means that the Classical Academy could contract with the sheriff's office or any other agency. I think the other charter school uses, what'd you say, Highway Patrol or
FHP.
troopers or whatever. But you could contract with the agency, and I, as one board member, would consider that to bring back for consideration, but not at this point because we don't know a price. I'm not going to buy a car unless I know how much it costs. But if the board could find an agency and get an SRO at that school for like the 67 or whatever.
I think that's
Chief Wagner,
reasonable.
is that about the right amount? It's around 67? But if, then you could bring it to the board for consideration.
Sure.
And
And
then we could decide whether we could try to help out some. But right now, we can't commit to that because, maybe Ms. Hutchins could talk to the sheriff and get him off that $101,500. But if not, there's other things like what the other charter school does or different agencies. But I would think for, the 66, 67, 68, whatever it is, that they would be able to get someone. And we want the kids to be safe. And if the parents want something more than a guardian, then I think that it's worth exploring. But that's up to that board. And then you could bring back a proposal to the school board. And I think that way everybody can kind of fill out the possibilities. But right now, at least you've got a guardian for right now, for this year. But, and I don't know if y'all are looking at doing something, letting that go and go into something else right away or what. But, you need to have some time to do some homework to bring it back to us. And we certainly don't want the parents to think that we're not wanting all the kids to be safe. But we have legal limitations as to what we can do, and and give us time to figure out if we were to help, where would the money come from, and so forth and so on. But first thing is, y'all are going to, at the charter school, will have to decide what you want and get some feelers out on what it would cost, and maybe do some bargaining, and then bring it back to the board. Because since you already have a guardian, there's not a huge rush on this. So let's do it right. Okay? So that's all I can think of. I was trying to think if there were any other concerns that the parents brought up when they spoke. I wanted to address all their concerns. Can you think of anything that we haven't covered?
I'm just unclear of what the superintendent's been instructed or asked by Ms. Gilhousen to do. It sounds like what you're saying is that her board needs to do some work and bring it back to us. So
Yeah. The superintendent,
what was
we
her
can't
first
ask him to
question
do
to him?
anything right now.
Okay, thank you.
We can't ask him to do anything right now because I think there's some work that needs to be done on the charter schools end before we can discuss it. We don't know how much money you're talking about. We don't know what y'all want to do yet. So is that agreeable?
Well, I mean, I was hoping that we would give direction to the superintendent. That was my intent here to
Direction to do what?
To work with the charter school board in order to come up with a plan to bring back to the board. Because the jurisdictional issues, I understand Mr. Bickner's perspective, but I also think that it's worthwhile exploring what other school districts do with their charter schools and their school district police forces, if their officers operate on charter school campuses. I mean, I feel like it's kind of silly that we can't just have a conversation about it. Does that make sense?
That's what I'm hoping we're doing right now.
Right, but I think the school district needs to work with the charter school boards. Does that make sense? Because there's questions that they need answered by our staff to make a plan.
It sounds to me like the charter school board needs to do their homework and bring it back to us, and then our staff will know what the ask is that you're giving us.
The ask was for a resource officer.
For
And
how much?
the intent was flexibility to provide it in the most economical manner.
Well, we really need some backup, we need some numbers, and it's your job, or not your job, it's the board's job of the Classical Academy to do their work. It's not our staff's job to do that. So I agree with Mrs. Studdard, you need to do some homework and bring it back.
Mr. Davis.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Bickner.
I would point out, Ms. Gilhousen, I have reached out to every school district in the state of Florida that has a police department. I have found none that have their police officers in the charter schools.
Okay, thank you for.
And I will list those. I obtained the names from Chief Wagner, and he obtained them, I think, from FDLE. And so I will put a list of the people, the different school districts, and put it together. I'm happy to do that. The reality is that most of them, their charter schools are either hiring an SRO, an off-duty police officer, or are using a guardian. And I can list for you what those different things are.
No, that's
in the
fine.
different
I just
districts.
wasn't sure what other school districts were doing, and I thought it was worth looking into. But if you've already done that, I trust your word.
I'll do it, but I'll provide it for you so that you can see what I've done.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Davis, do you have any
Yes,
comments?
ma'am. Through the chair, I appreciate the conversation. From everybody, let's just look at it from everyone's lens. What it's all about is equity and making certain that the same services are providing for every child in our school district, whether they are school district managed charters, whether they're public managed charters, whether they're district managed schools. In this sense, and I said it, I think 2 weeks ago, I think we should spare no expense on safety. Safety, I say as my sacred priority because I have a child who goes to the school, and I understand from a parent's perspective, if they're not in a district managed school and they're in a public charter school, I understand the feeling from it. The optics of it look as if, district managed schools are not supported from a safety perspective. I will say, though, from our legal requirement, what we're doing is through safe school money that we are meeting the requirements outlined by the state. So anything that goes over and beyond that requirement will have to be extended to me from the board to make that come to fruition. But as I said, for me, if we can, it sounds like we can't put one of our resource officers on campus of any of the, and I say both charter schools because there's no way the conversation has to be one-sided. It has to include both.
correct.
And so from my side of it, from our legal perspective, we can't place our individuals due to the jurisdiction side of it. And nor should any of the charter schools want someone on campus that can't do the job in full extent. And, we want to make sure if we do it right. But from my side, I'm willing to go and do whatever is needed to do to get the information to the board to make the decision in order for us to come to a consensus. But please know that as of right now, we are, meeting the requirement. But I do understand the feeling of safety to have a resource officer at the school from a parent's perspective and child's perspective as well. That's where I'm at.
Okay, so you're, Ms. Gilhousen, so what you're asking is that the superintendent meet with maybe your mom, Miss Hutchins,
Well, I
and
think like
sit
he
down to
referenced.
to start the conversation.
Mhm.
I think that can be arranged very easily, you know. Won't you see Miss Hutchins? Yeah. Yeah, why don't they get together? I think so much can be accomplished in this world if people just sit down and talk eyeball to eyeball. And I think if Miss Hutchins and Mr. Davis sat down and just had a good heart to heart, y'all can kind of find a way through. Okay?
Through the chair, can I ask this to happen? And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful and address the audience, 'cause I know we don't do this. But Ms. Hutchins, can you do some legwork on your side with what other entities may potentially cost related to what the sheriff's office will potentially charge? And if there's any additional avenues that may be, what Clay Charter may charge us, what they're using their funding to do for coverage. That way we'll be able to know what the financial impact may be.
And it honestly, like you said, him meeting with the board from St. John's Classical is a great plan, but I think that Clay Charter needs to be included in that conversation as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Okay, well, this will get it started. Okay, so we're good? All right. We just needed to have an open conversation on this.
Well, and to be clear, Mr. Davis had asked me for board direction on this. So that was my whole intent, was to give him the green light. Go ahead, do what you need to do to work it out with the charter schools and bring it to the board. So my intent was not to tie anybody's hands or to commit to any specific plan tonight, other than that we want to help these charter schools provide a resource officer for their campuses.
Sounds good. All right, and let's see, the next item is D4.
There's one more item, one more thing to deal with in that particular item. There is an outstanding motion and second. It's still, did you withdraw that? Okay.
We withdrew it. So we're good to go. All right, D4, Human Resources, Special Action A. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Bola, a second by Mrs. Gilhousen. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. The next item is D5, Human Resources, Special Action B. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Gilhousen, a second by Mrs. Bola. All those in favor indicate by...
Discussion, I have discussion.
All right, discussion.
I just want to go on record saying that I don't agree with this punishment, that I believe it should be more, possible even termination. This was a pattern in here, and this is not acceptable behavior.
I agree.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, say no.
And I will clarify, I said aye because there had to be some punishment. I didn't want it to look as if there was none.
So is it a
But
5-0 vote?
this is not acceptable.
It's a 5-0 vote.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
5-0. Okay. And I understand where you're coming from. School board attorney remarks? None. School board member remarks? Ms. Caracas?
Oh, I have a couple.
Okay.
Mr. Davis, I was recently at Lake Asbury Elementary, and when I was leaving, it was dismissal time. Big mistake on my part. But I was concerned because I know that our teachers and our staff help out during dismissal, and we've got our crossing guards.
Yes, ma'am.
But I was concerned because across the street in the parking lot of the shopping center, there were a couple of teachers, and they were dressed in their regular clothing and holding a clipboard that had a stop sign on it. And so, and I have no problem with that. I'm just concerned for their safety.
agree with that.
And the insurance liability
I agree
aspect
with
of that,
you.
if they're not on our grounds, and I understand they have to
I
help
agree.
students and direct, I get all of that. But what I'm curious about is, could you maybe have, and I don't know, this might be a Mr. Ward question, but could you have him look into how many schools we currently have where we have staff off of school district property working in that capacity? And then if we are going to have that, and it is contractually legal and allowed, do we need to purchase, Clay County School District orange vests or something and give them real stop signs so that, this lady looked like just a mom, and then she flashed a clipboard that said stop. And then I realized she had her Clay County tag on, and I thought, oh my goodness. and like, I don't have a problem with her doing that,
Sure.
because it just concerned me that, she's in the middle of the
Right.
street and,
Yes, ma'am. And through the chair, thank the teacher for doing that, but they shouldn't really be doing that. They should not be doing anything off campus.
they're not on our
Because
property.
once again, we can't, if something happens to that educator, we can't protect them. And I hope that school leaders haven't asked teachers or support staff to go beyond the scope of the school property to do that. I'm thankful that they're trying to help children, but I'll send a communication out and cease that,
I
because
think there were 3 on the other side of the street.
because it shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Everything should happen on campus. Anything else with the crossing guards should be, that's driven by the sheriff's office, and they should be in strategic locations that the county has deemed to be the best part, but we shouldn't have staff. Now, we do have staff that usually sometimes like to walk kids home, like walk kids off of campuses
Right.
and walk, that across the street. But they shouldn't be stopping traffic. They shouldn't be doing all those kinds of things. And but
Yeah.
I'll get that communication out.
I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
It-
Thank
it
you. I didn't know.
surprised me.
Thank you.
I'm not normally there during dismissal, so I
Yes, ma'am.
didn't, so I was thinking, does this go on at all? I mean,
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
like Thunderbolt, they have certain areas where there are teachers outside and walk them down through the gate in the back or whatnot. So this one, I just,
However, at
There are-
Keystone Elementary, they load and unload the buses on a public street, so,
do they?
yeah, you do,
Wow, this is
Yeah,
a really busy
on
intersection.
Pecan Street, so
And
yes.
I'm sure it's just as busy in Keystone
So
as
that's
as
a-
there, but.
That's a public
Yeah.
street that
Communication
they're on
Yeah.
that, so
Yeah.
just FYI.
All right, my second thing, I know I spoke to Mr. Davis and I sent an email to the board, and I did speak to Mr. Broski today, and I'm just wondering about the Teacher of the Year. Were you able to finalize the date?
No response from Bob Olson, but the other individual whose name I could never
Miss
say
Ellen?
correctly.
No, Phelps,
Okay.
Yeah,
Hein Phelps.
yeah, we're in contact with
Okay,
him,
good.
so we should have it wrapped up
Great.
shortly.
Great.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to say thank you to your staff, your team, and to the Education Foundation and the many volunteers that really go into making this a great night, and every year it's better and better. So we're looking forward to it, but I just want to say thank you for all
Yes,
the
ma'am.
assistance with that. And then I actually had the privilege of going to the Jacksonville Symphony. I know we were all invited on their opening night. Next year, you guys all need to go. It was amazing. It was such a great night, and it was really wonderful. I would just highly encourage you all to go. And I know that there's a possible program in the works to bring the symphony into our elementary school, so I'm looking forward to that. And my last thing, and I normally would never say anything about a small business or a school district employee, but I have to give a shout out to the Amazing Grace Crop Maze. I don't know if you guys have seen the crop this year. The theme is Special Olympics, and we go every year. I don't think you've ever missed one, Mrs. Studdard, Mr. Book, we all go. And it was really, really great that, this is their 7th year. And they spotlighted the Special Olympics. They had 3 teams of kids that came out, and they've done these scarecrow type things with their Special Olympic shirts, and they've got some artwork around, and it's just a really great thing. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Justin and Kelly Mosley for the Amazing Grace Crop Maze. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Miss Bola, maybe Miss Bullock? Hold up, but get my beads
One of the
here.
Bs, right. Well, first of all, I've been involved with the community partnership school that is at Keystone Heights High School. I visited J.L. Wilkinson, who's like a step ahead of us on all that. They're doing a great job there, and I really appreciated touring that facility. I attended a CTE advisory meeting at Keystone Heights High School, and unbeknownst to them, I was able to make a $900 donation toward the health education program. One of our Kiwanis members passed away, and his wife did, and he said he had received such great care. She received such great care while she was in a facility that they wanted to give back, and so he asked in lieu of flowers, they made donations to the Keystone Heights High School Health Education Program, and we had $900 that I presented to them, so they were elated, obviously, so we're very proud of that. And I'd like to give a shout out to Melanie Sanders, who was FASA. October is Principals Month. I guess every month has something, and she was recognized as elementary school principal, so congratulations to her. That's all I have.
Ms. Bola.
Going down the line. Also went to the Amazing Grace with the opening barbecue was Saturday night, where they reveal each group that possibly would get some of the donations made at that facility. And I mean, when the Special Olympics team was up and doing the pledge and just celebrating, it was absolutely wonderful. And it really, I personally don't go into the maze because I'm afraid I won't be able to get out.
I couldn't even imagine.
They
I've
are
never been.
very
I've never
intricate
been.
from what I've understood. Couple of visits. At the last meeting, we had a number of parents that came to us from Poe and said, come to our ASD classes and you would be welcome. And so I called and said, I'd like to come visit your ASD classes, and went to all of them. And the hugs and the learning that's going on in these classes and the other classes that we walked through were absolutely tremendous. There's a lot of good things going on at Poe and all of our schools. But really enjoyed that visit, and I appreciate the invitation. So any invitations that come out, definitely, we'll try to make it. Fleming Island Elementary, we had our walk to school the other morning, and that was fun. It was just fun getting out and seeing all of these kids walking their bicycles, their scooters, and the parents that came out. Thank you for participating. That you could see the pride in the children's faces with their moms and dads hanging around with them in the morning. It was definitely a good experience. Also, Oak Leaf Junior High School, a teacher said, I haven't seen you in a while. And so I went and visited and had a great time walking through and seeing all of the good things that are happening at Oak Leaf Junior and all of the positivity. I mean, when you're walking down the hallway with the principal and she's calling out students by name, and you know how large the school is, it's amazing how many students they know individually, and just here again, the goodwill that goes on throughout the school. A shout out to Ridgeview High School. Definitely a shout out to Ridgeview High School. Second year in a row, sportsmanship award, football game Friday night against Orange Park High School. It was a great evening. Well, can't win them all, but it was a great evening. And here again, I mean, the students rock, truly rock at that school, as does the chorus. Last night, or 2 nights ago, was the Ridgeview High School Fall Chorus. Miss Bice, what an amazing musician. And having had a son who was in the chorus there and seeing that chorus grow from a small group to literally hundreds of students is simply amazing. And the great work that they're doing there. Know that they're going to be doing, I believe, Hairspray in the spring. So I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. And last but not least, a shout out to all of the students who are seniors this year who recently found out that they are National Merit semifinalists. Mr. Connor, kudos. And to all of those students, you will recognize one of them from the science fair. He wins the science fair every year and goes on to nationals. He is one of our National Merit semifinalists. And I have a personal shout out to Maddie. Maddie Yanish was one of my 5th grade students, and she is also a semifinalist this year. Very incredibly proud of her. So good job. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Gilhousen.
I'm just going to say goodnight.
Bless you, my child. Okay. I bet the symphony was great, but I'm going to tell you, I love the symphony. I love beautiful music, but I was sitting here thinking, ooh, I've got Jimmy Buffett tickets. Yahoo!
Priorities.
Wasted. But Mr. Connor, can you sing that? At our Christmas party?
Do it right now. Wait a minute.
I'll be there too with you at Jimmy Buffett.
Are you going?
Have
Yes.
his phone up like this.
Yes. And, you know, they're having the Christmas party the same day, so we're going to have to sneak out. Yeah. Because the party's from 4:30 to 6:30. And the concert starts at 8, so,
Plenty of time.
yeah. But maybe at the Christmas party, you could sing Margaritaville.
He can sing a lot. Voice of an angel.
I've heard him before, but,
Voice of an angel.
no, I feel like school is officially in gear now. At Grove Park, where I've mentored for like 20 years or 25 years, I don't know, forever, we've got our new little girls now. They start us off with fourth grade, then you go fourth, fifth, and sixth, and by then you really know all the family and everything about them. But it's fun to feel like you're doing something to help a child. And then I even went over to Orange Park Junior and checked on mine to make sure she was doing good. So we had to have a little talk. But
Words of encouragement.
yeah, she didn't exactly get that. Okay, but y'all have a good evening, and it's just 5 to 9, so we're doing quite good. The meeting is adjourned. Hey, Addison.